Prepare yourself for Earthling Entertainment, the perfect blend of paranormal and pop culture, with your host, Joe Wakefield and Ryan Lang.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Earthling Entertainment with Joe Wakefield and Ryan Lay.
Hey, what's up? I'm your host who cancels shows because of unfortunate kidney stones, Joe Wakefield.
And I'm Ryan Lay. How you doing, Joe? Feeling better?
I am, and I'm so happy to be here. And for those of you joining us for the first time, let's explain what we do. So, it's a little bit of the spooky.
Yep.
It's a little bit of the creepy. Sometimes it's cryptozoology.
That's
Other
what's it.
times it's a haunting or a legend or a myth. But it's always spooky. And that, of course, is followed by a segment we like to call Disclosure Discussion. It's all about aliens.
I'm just asking questions. UFO stories, photos, stories about drones lately, maybe. I don't know.
I
Stuff
don't
like
know.
that. Who knows?
Misleading because it's not today. But
It's
continue.
not today, but I'm just saying. I just heard about that.
But all things aliens, extraterrestrial, and fun with the grays. Ben, the second half of the show,
Mhm.
the latter half, if you will,
Yep.
is a little bit different. That one is all dedicated to pop culture and entertainment.
It is.
Now,
Yeah.
sometimes that's celebrity news or interviews. We've had celebrities on the show. We do trivia games, occasionally an audio drama. It's always a little bit of something in the headlines or a celebrity death. But those two sections, our first half being the spooky, supernatural phenomena and craziness, with the second half of pop culture and entertainment, come together to make the wonderful, delicious Oreo of a show. That's right, switching it up. Of a podcast we like to call Earthling Entertainment. Welcome.
Welcome indeed. And, we like to dip that Oreo cookie in a bunch of nerdy stuff, too. We got a lot of nerdy stuff we like to talk about.
Yeah, that is true. So, last week we canceled. There's a little bit of a bonus episode I did, but it was unfortunately I had a little bit of a medical thing. We resolved it, but I was asked too many times online, so that's what happened. But now, this episode, well, we got something really good for you. We're going to talk about a Native American myth, or legend, or creature, whatever you want to call it, of a flying head, which is what it sounds like. There's like a flying severed head. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I've heard of this before.
You have?
I definitely have. I grew up, I grew up doing the Boy Scout thing, so there was a lot of Native American stuff that we got to kind of dive into. So this is one of the stories I actually heard.
Yeah, well, like 2 cities away is the city of Wyandotte, and this is actually a Wyandotte myth.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know that. See, yeah, we used to stomp around
Yeah, that is
there when we were younger.
that is a good town.
That was, yeah.
but
Well, it is. It is. What do you- I haven't
It
been there in a
still
while,
exists.
but it's still, it's still
not,
good.
It's not like an RPG where it was blown up or something. It's still
this
there.
isn't Fallout, right?
But I will say, last week, because we didn't do a show, I had a lot of time on my hands. And so, everyone does Black Friday and Cyber Monday with sales.
Oh yeah. Well, all the sales,
The sales.
the deals, which don't exist.
Oh, no. It just depends on where you look.
That's true. That's
Okay,
true.
so I went to Audible, and Audible had like up to 90% on certain titles. So an argument can be made that since it's just digital information, that like there being great sales is kind of a moot point because you're not actually buying anything. You're just licensing the material. But that's a story for another day.
Yes.
But anyways, I got they had a bunch of things in my wish list. I was looking through it, and I have Stephen King books, and they were like half off. So they were like,
nice.
like $12 or whatever. But as we keep going, I had this thing. Do you remember Animorphs?
Well, yeah. We've talked to Animorphs before on the
Okay,
show, for
yeah.
sure.
Okay, so Animorphs were normally like $10, and they were like $2. And I remembered back in the day, I was like, I'm gonna get a bunch of these because I never got to read all the way through them as a kid. There's like 54 books.
I remember thinking they were okay.
Yeah, well, fair enough. But the point is, I was super into it because the whole overarching story is like a bunch of kids fighting an alien invasion. It was basically body snatchers, pretty creepy stuff. Well, they were like $1. They were like $1.99. So I got like 30 of them.
Of course you did, Joe.
Of course I did. So now when I'm doing dishes or I'm taking care of the kid, I'm listening to the Animorph books, man.
So how's this journey?
All
treating
right.
you?
So the thing with these Animorph books are they're not bad stories overall. Like the overall arcing narrative of an alien invasion and a bunch of kids trying to stop it is golden. But because they are chapter books for children that like came out once a month or something like that,
Like in the 90s, yeah.
they all spend the first third of the book recapping every event.
Oh.
So as going through them, there is a lot of recap. Like it's like if you were wondering how we became the Animorphs, which by the way are kids who were given, if you don't know, are kids who are given an ability by an alien race to transform into any kind of animal. They have to touch the animal to acquire its DNA, but then they can turn into that animal and they have 2 hours to be that animal, or they're trapped in that animal forever unless they turn back into human. You got a 2-hour time limit. And they're fighting aliens who are opposed to the one that gave them power. And those aliens are slugs that crawl into your brain and control you. Classic body snatchers. The point is, you're going to learn that information over and over and over and over and over again, to the point where I'm like skipping the first chapter or two of the book. And then like they're like recaps. All right, this is pretty telling. If you go online, you could find a recap of every book, and each recap is like 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So like it does have a 3-act structure. It is pretty good. And I'm here for the ride. But I don't know how long I'm going to be able to keep this up before I fall off.
That
Simply
sounds like
because
a lot. Yeah.
simply because it's written for such a young audience.
Yeah, I don't think I could do it. More power to you, buddy. But yeah, I don't think I could. Like, I don't even listen to audiobook anymore. Like I used to a lot,
Dude, Audible's
but I
the best.
haven't listened to a book. I want to say it's been at least like over a year, probably 2 years. Like, I don't know why. I did listen last year. I listened to, I don't remember what it was called. It was like some Greek goddess book. I forget, but I
Greek
totally.
goddess book?
Well,
I mean,
like,
elaborate if you got anything. Was it actually
gosh.
mythology or was it a narrative?
It was actual mythology, but I mean, it was like from the perspective, oh, it's so terrible. And she's going to listen to it and laugh at me because my girlfriend suggested I listen to it. So I did listen to it.
Yeah.
But
Okay,
man,
so-
that was a while ago.
Elena, he did listen to the book.
I did. She
But
knows
you
I
did not question him soon enough about this book.
Oh no.
So-
But it was good, and it was good, but like, and I enjoyed it, but I found myself, I think I tried to get into before the Acolyte. Remember, I tried listening to what was that from?
Well, there's a lot of High Republic books, if that's what
That
you're
was
referring
it.
to.
It was the first one. And
You know what's funny is it turned out that in retrospect, the Acolyte took place 100 years after any of those High Republic
Right.
books.
So it didn't even
didn't
matter.
even fucking matter.
It sort of did from the way because I
Slightly?
knew how, but I
There
found
was a-
I
there
found
was-
the book incredibly boring. But you did it tell me, you warned me, you're like, it's a big setup because
Yeah.
it's the first book.
The first book was called Light of the Jedi in the High Republic. And yes, it is basically like, here are all the pieces on the board, and it's less of a story and more like a setup. Yeah, absolutely.
I thought it was cool. I liked the pirates and stuff like that. So like, I don't know.
Well, in the first wave of books, they had a young adult book, a kid's book, and an adult book. Well, the kid's book had introduced the character Venestra Rowe, and Venestra Rowe is the one who had the lightsaber whip, and she was basically the head of the Jedi in the Acolyte, as I understand it, 100 years later. But beyond that connection, there was nothing that really mattered to read from those books.
Okay. Yeah.
The
and-
green-haired bald woman in
Right.
the Acolyte.
Right.
She was 16 years old in the first book she was introduced in the High Republic.
Right.
Yeah.
And
One of the youngest Jedi to become a master. She was 16 when she became a master.
that's crazy.
Yeah, the character's not bad, but I mean, I know they didn't do much with her in the show.
So they didn't teach Anakin about that one. He'd have been like, "What the fuck?
God damn it!
You go 16.
So back to Animorphs. Now,
Animorphs. I
Ryan,
had to pull you into Star Wars somehow.
you did. Real quick though, I was thinking about how we could do this, man. We could take, if we can get the rights to the Animorphs, I could write this into like some like Riverdale, some teeny bopper hot people shit, right? Think about it. We age them up. They're all college students. Everything that takes place in school can be in the college, and then there's a lot of dated references like, cyber cafes and things like the mall. Well, you just change that to be like, all right, if it's a food court, they're at their campus and there's like a bunch of food trucks. As I'm listening to these books, bud, I'm thinking of like, we can modernize this shit.
We
right?
could.
Because the overall story isn't bad. It's a good alien story, but all right, I'm sorry. I just wanted to
I
finish
actually
that.
like that. No, I think that we could totally make Animorphs into a new thing, and that's all they do is just remake old stuff anyway. So let's do it.
I mean, how many people care about it is the real question, right? Because you think it's the same age of the kids who liked Goosebump books. Like, they're people our age, right? But if you took a survey and you asked 100 people, like, do you know what the Animorphs are? I bet most of them would know what we were talking about, but I don't know how many of them, like, were like, oh no, I kept up with it.
No, I really doubt there's that many youngsters today that would even know what Animorphs was.
Well, we're not talking youngsters. We're talking about peers.
Peers would know.
Yes.
I think because those were the same books that were. It was like literally when you went to the book fair, it was like
Yeah, the
it was either
Scholastic
R.L.
book
Yeah,
fair.
it was either R.L. Stein, or it was Animorphs, or it was like Hatchet by Gary Paulson.
Oh my God, I just bought Hatchet.
Dude.
No, like the book, it was 75 cents at a book fair because I only bought it because it was required reading when we were kids.
That's like one of the 5 books I own because it's the same book I've had since like middle school that they forced us to have. And I remember they would make us listen to this old Audible and audiobook or whatever back in the day. I think it was literally a book on tape.
Yeah, or CD or something.
And before every chapter, it would be like, Chapter 12, Hatchet by Gary Paulson. Like every time you'd hear it,
like,
every time.
You don't need to tell us the title
Like,
at the end of every chapter. Well, Audible doesn't do that for most of their recordings, I will say. By the way, if you like Audible, check out Earthling Entertainment on Audible.
That's right, we're there.
We absolutely are.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet, honestly.
It is funny though because I just bought Hatchet from a little book fair at a library.
It's
they made
just so-
sequel. They made sequels to Hatchet.
That's so weird.
Like, he got that fucking plane again. Apparently, he crashed again. He survived again thanks to his Hatchet.
Well, of course he did.
It's kind of like
he did.
White Fang 2, where they're just like, it happened to another guy. Same thing though.
Me. You know, like who needs anything else to make a sequel nowadays? You know what I'm saying? Like,
like Balto. Do you remember that story?
I remember Balto. That was a true story, wasn't it?
It was. They made 4 movies.
Yeah, he only rescued one kid, I thought.
Well, let me tell you, the sequels got pretty magical, right?
Let me tell you. The magic of Balto.
The magic of Balto. Speaking of magic, one of the coolest things in life are crazy myths that tribes and other cultures, before they had a full understanding, a scientific understanding of the world, come up with. And we have a doozy for you today.
Do we?
Yeah. On this week's Spooky Stuff.
Flying Heads. Sounds like a death metal band.
Kinda does.
The Flying Head is a cannibalistic spirit from Iroquois and Wyandot mythology.
Whoop, whoop.
The Flying Head, or Flying Heads, is similar to the Wendigo in that it is also an insatiable monster that feeds on human flesh.
To be fair, we are delicious.
It is also known as Big Head or the Great Head.
No one ever claimed they were creative.
According to both Iroquois and the Wyandot, flying heads are described as being ravenous spirits that are cursed with an insatiable hunger. They are said to have human-like appearance with a large head, sharp teeth, and a long tongue. The legend of flying heads is often used to teach children about the dangers of greed and gluttony.
Most myths and monsters are to teach kids not to be dicks.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, but continue.
It's like Santa Claus, but it's a flying head.
Yeah, be good or you won't get presents. That one's just bribery, though.
Let's just, we all do it. The monster has been referenced in many historical texts and works of literature. In the book Legends of the Iroquois, the flying head is described as a powerful and terrifying creature that can only be defeated by a brave warrior.
Gary.
He's the best we got. Go get him, Gary.
We believe in you.
The monster also appears in the works of other Native American authors such as Mourning Dove and Paula Gunn Allen. In addition, it has been referenced in popular culture, appearing in television shows and movies such as Supernatural and The X-Files. Overall, it is a fascinating...
Thanks for letting me finish that.
That was well done. Yeah, I was of course going to wait. Overall, it is a fascinating mythical creature that holds great cultural significance in Native American mythology. Its legend has been passed down through generations and continues to be an important part of Native American culture today.
Mm-hmm.
Flying heads are ravenous spirits that are cursed with an insatiable hunger. They are generally described as resembling a human head with long, dark hair and terrible eyes and a large mouth filled with razor-sharp fangs.
Sky piranhas is what we called them in my day.
Sharp, pointy, nasty teeth.
Needle teeth.
According to both Iroquois and Wyandot, the flying heads are known to have a grotesque appearance with a large nose, pointed ears, and a wrinkled forehead. Their eyes are said to be red and glowing, and they have a long forked tongue that flickers in and out of their mouth. The rest of the body of the flying head is not always described in detail. However,
it's tiny and gross.
However, they are often depicted as having wings that allow them to fly. The flying heads are believed to be...
Can we pause for just 1 second?
I could try.
Well, what would be scarier would be a flying head with wings or just a head flying inexplicably.
Right.
Yeah, which one? I'm asking.
I think the fluttering wings would make it a little silly. Like,
It would feel like a Mario villain, maybe. Well, I mean, yeah, because right, it's if we're talking hummingbird wings, then that might be a little silly.
Like,
what about eagle wings? You know, like they're big. Like I would assume that if a flying head had wings, then that is what propelled it into the sky. The wings would have to be pretty big because to lift the weight of the head.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like buzzard wings on a head.
I guess that's where it does sound. You're right. It sounds very Mario-like. It's like silly to think about this big head with like these little wings, like just flapping them up. Like,
jump on it.
So the flying heads are believed to be able to change their shape and size, making them difficult to identify and track. They're also known for their incredible speed and agility, which makes them difficult to catch.
God damn it.
Their flight is said to be silent, so maybe more like an owl.
Sure. I mean, big flapping wings make noise, right? So now I'm back to the hummingbird ideas.
Yeah,
so now I'm thinking, goddamn severed hands. All right.
I'm sorry, I had to. So their flight is said to be silent, allowing them to approach their prey undetected. Overall, the flying heads are a terrifying and mysterious creature that has fascinated people for centuries. Their unique features and abilities make them a popular subject in mythology and folklore.
It's true.
They are also known for their supernatural powers. They are said to have the ability to shapeshift, allowing them to take on different forms and blend in with their surroundings.
So how do you know it's a flying head or a dragon? Like how far does this shapeshifting go? Like you know what I mean? Like an octopus could change the way it looks. It could change the color and texture of its skin to blend in, or like maybe appear like something that it could like fold its body to, like a contortionist maybe. But that's different than like full on animorphs or something that could like turn completely into a different creature. Also, does size matter? Are we just exchanging like if I am a finite amount of Joe's size, I can't turn into an elephant that's giant if it's the same amount of matter, right? I could only basically make a tiny elephant that would be the same size ultimately that I am.
Yeah.
So I have questions as far as their shape-shifting is concerned, man.
Well, we see it with moths and butterflies where like when they put their wings together, it kind of like looks like a face, right? It looks like two eyes.
sure,
Like it
like the
kind of
natural
looks like a mouth.
camouflage.
So
Yeah.
what if it's like a mimicry? You know what I mean? So what if this is some kind of like animal that we don't even know that's literally evolved to deal with us, so it just makes a giant face?
Yeah, so it looks like it's a flying head, and maybe it's some
Yeah.
kind of like bug or bird.
Yeah.
Ooh.
It could be mimicry.
I kind of like it. I like Mimic.
Yeah, I remember that.
Unrelated, I like
I
that.
haven't seen that movie in forever. They used to like always be on TV. That was like one of like the 3 like horror-esque like movies that would be on Sci-Fi. I remember.
One of the
It was
teachers,
like that and Tremors.
one of the teachers at my school produced that movie.
No shit.
Yeah, his name was Michael Zumas. I talk a little bit about it in that bonus episode I did last week. But
Huh.
yeah. So he did Mimic and he did Imposter.
Huh.
Yeah, and he a bunch of other stuff, but that's the only ones that I really remember because those ones I like.
Well, shout out to him. That's
Yeah.
awesome. And the Mimic was sweet.
Mimic was
That
sweet.
that was a pretty scary concept.
But it is a good concept. So these flying heads, let's say hypothetically, what if it's not the head that is shape-shifting? What if it is something else that is shape-shifting to look like a head? Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a proposition that I tip my hat to, sir.
Thank you. So, back to the flying heads, they are also believed to have the power to control the weather, causing storms and other natural disasters.
All right, I hate to interrupt so quickly, but there's a movie called The Nines, and it stars Ryan Reynolds. And
course it does.
the one of the best things about that movie. So, if God was a theoretical 10 and humans were a 7, Ryan Reynolds' character in that movie would be a 9. And koalas are 8 because they're telepathic and they can control the weather.
Oh.
That is straight out of that movie, and let me tell you,
That doesn't
yeah,
surprise me.
that is why I brought it up as telepathic can control. It's fine. Continue. Sorry.
All right.
Yeah, tangent.
Okay.
Watch The Nines. It's a really good movie. And I'm not trying to plug a different podcast, but the writer of that movie does the last podcast on the left, and he is superly famous. It'd be like plugging Joe Rogan. It's like, yeah, people know.
Yeah.
So it's not a big deal.
So I guess I could if Ryan Reynolds was here, flying heads are often associated with the death and destruction,
Of course they are.
and their supernatural powers are said to be fueled by the souls of their victims. They are feared by many. Yeah, fuck off, Ryan Reynolds. They are feared by many and are often considered to be harbingers of doom and misfortune. One of the most famous stories tells of a young girl.
All right, skip that one. Dude number 2.
Oh,
No, I'm kidding.
so one of the most famous stories tells, Joe, of a young girl who was captured
Oh, no.
by the flying head and taken to its lair. The girl managed to outsmart the spirit by tricking him into eating a bowl of hot stones,
As one does.
causing him to burn his mouth and flee in pain.
You know what? I'm glad we didn't skip that one. Thank you.
That's what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. Like, she basically just fed him pizza rolls.
Like,
it was...
if you get to this point now, this is how you do it. It's pizza rolls.
All right. Yep, that's a more modern take.
Yes.
Another well-known story involves a group of hunters who stumbled upon the flying head's lair. The hunters were able to defeat the spirit by shooting it with arrows made from the bones of its own victims.
Because that's metal as hell.
that was metal as fuck.
Yeah. Would you, making a sword out of, or any kind of pokey device out of someone's, victims and then
Yeah.
impaling them on that? That's, oof. There's a little bit of irony there, right? Like,
That's like
Sure.
that's like the Patriot with him melting down his kids' metal toys and using them for bullets.
oh my God.
Like that.
Yeah.
That's metal.
Oh my God. That was pretty good.
That
The
was-
Patriot's a good movie.
It's so historically inaccurate. People
No,
say
it's absolutely. But so, like,
But-
Gladiator 2, most recently, is completely historically inaccurate, too.
yeah, but it's still such a good movie.
Yeah. You got to understand, if you're watching historical epic, unless it is like directly about something like very specific, chances are they took major liberties.
Liberties. That is what we got here, America. So back to these here flying heads. The main story behind the monster goes as follows. The creature originates in the legends of the Iroquois nation, who tell of a nameless tribe that once lived in the region of the USA now known as New York,
I'd call them the Tukis, by the way.
around the Hudson River,
Okay, so the Tukis live around the Hudson River.
whose conflict over an issue gave birth to the monster. According to the most popular version of the story, the region was struck with famine that drove the game and even the fish to other areas, and the younger members of the community suggested that they follow suit. The elders refused and insisted on remaining on their ancestral lands until the situation improved. The younger men grew tired of argument and murdered the elders,
Because that's a way you solve an argument.
cutting off their heads and hurling them into a lake in a bundle. But one of these young warriors became entangled in the ropes, binding the heads, and drowned. His life energy combined with the severed heads to become the flying head. The flying head legend serves to support a central cultural value, in this case, that of respecting one's elders and, of course, the prohibition against killing a member of one's own tribe for selfish reasons, or any reason outside of self-defense.
Yeah, so bottom line, if you don't agree with your parents, maybe not murder them and sever their heads and throw it into a lake. You could create a monster.
It's like,
We're just saying.
like you
and-
put them in a burlap sack. Like, that's fucked up.
I mean, I've been talking years about a sequel to Seven where Gwyneth Paltrow's head was flying around killing motherfuckers, but then they won't finance it because Hollywood is scared.
13 heads in a duffel bag. That was my idea.
Moving on.
While the basic characteristics of the flying head are consistent across different regions, there are some variations in the details of the stories. In some versions of the tale, the spirit is said to have the ability to shapeshift into different forms, such as a bird or a deer. In others, it is described as having a single eye in the center of its forehead. In some regions, the flying head is believed to be a malevolent spirit that preys on humans. In others, it is seen as a protector of the natural world, punishing those who harm the environment. Despite these variations, the flying head remains a prominent figure in the mythology of many Native American tribes, including the Iroquois and the Wyandot. The legends surrounding these creatures have inspired many writers to create works of fiction and incorporate elements of Native American mythology. For example, in the novel The Flying Head by Earl E. Guy, the protagonist is a young boy who must confront a flying head that is terrorizing his community. The book draws heavily on the traditional stories of the Iroquois people, and it has become a classic of Native American literature.
Honestly, I kind of want to look it up and get that.
Yeah.
That sounds kind of fun. What was it called again?
The Flying Head by Earl E. Guy.
All right, fair enough. I mean, simple. I should remember that.
Like G-U-I, Guy.
Yeah.
They have also made appearances in various forms of media, including television shows and video games. In the popular video game series Assassin's Creed, flying heads are portrayed as vicious monsters that the player must defeat to progress through the game. Similarly, in the TV show Supernatural, flying heads are depicted as malevolent spirits that haunt the woods of a small town. Overall, flying heads continue to be a prominent figure in Native American mythology, inspiring new works of art and entertainment that keep their legacy alive.
Ooh, excellent. I mean, I have seen them in video games. If there was
Yeah.
there's a Japanese version because I talked about before was in like with the Hellboy cartoon. So like the flying severed head is nothing new.
No, it's not. And I mean, think about it. It's even in Zelda. You
Ooh,
have
is
those
it?
the skulls with the little wings, like literally, and you have to hit them, and then the wings go away, and they literally bounce around for a while, and that's the only chance that you can kill them. That's like back like old Zelda. I'm talking N64.
No, I get
Ocarina
it.
of
I
Time.
get it. It's just amazing because it's just the idea of like a severed head. Because I hate to be brutal, but throughout history, I guess cutting off heads was a pretty sure way to make sure you killed someone because there's so much
There's
mythology
a lot of that.
about a demon flying severed head.
There are a lot of decapitations when it comes to mythologies. You're right. I mean, that's how they did it.
Ugh.
And they often said, let's say there were 50 people ready for the guillotine today, right? And you and me, we would be fighting to be first in line. You know why? Because
Why?
that blade dulls. And they have
Yeah.
a few. It's gonna
I
take
mean,
a couple of whacks.
oh, that's rough. Well, also the whole like being alive for a couple seconds after your head cuts off because your brain has still got oxygen and blood for a sec. That like I don't want to like know what that is like to be sitting there where it's like, okay, well you know that you are dead, but you're like experiencing the last little bits of anything that you'd experience with life. You don't like you don't really I don't know if you'd feel anything. Oh,
I have a
that
feeling.
is so dark, man.
Well, the human brain is fascinating when it comes to like what it does to us. Like that's why when people get like limbs just taken off by sharks or something like that, literally all you ever hear from these people is, and then I just remember hearing a pop. They didn't feel a thing. It's because your
Your
body
brain stops you
it
from, yeah.
knows when you're pretty much getting killed,
Oh no.
and it stops you from really having to deal with that.
But how do we know that? We've obviously never interviewed anyone who died. So like how do
Speak
we
for yourself. I played a Ouija board.
moving on? No. Oh man. So yeah, flying head. Very cool Native American mythology there.
That
We're-
was a good one, and it hit home literally.
Yeah,
We're-
that's actually why I wanted to do it is because the Wyandotte tribe is so localized to where we are here.
We're
in
literally
Michigan.
like a 20-minute drive to be in Wyandotte.
Yeah.
If
Well,
that.
the city, which we without any research are assuming means that the tribe was from that land, right?
I'm assuming as well. Because whenever you drive into Wyandotte, they got these signs all
and
down,
they're all Native American.
and they're all the
yeah.
Native American. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, that's just down the road. Well, guys, so I've just been on a Native American spirit kick. We're doing another Native American spirit next week on the
Nice.
17th. And then the 24th, which is, of course, Christmas Eve, we're doing a very special Christmas episode. And our spooky stuff is going to focus on Krampus.
yeah, Krampus. And it's so funny you mentioned Krampus because I thought for sure it was pronounced Crumpus, and I even argued it with my girlfriend.
Really?
And she was like, "No, it's Krampus." And we looked it up. It's totally Krampus.
Yeah, it's
I don't
Krampus.
know why. I have like a weird, what's that called? Mandela effect that I could have sworn I looked that up.
Mandela, yeah.
I could have sworn I looked that shit up before, and it said it was pronounced Crumpus.
Well, we're going to find out. Because we're going to do the whole mythology. We're going to figure out like where Krampus comes from. We're going to talk about the new stuff with the horror movies. We're going to cover Krampus and where he falls in the holiday season in our Christmas Spectacular, which is going to come out on Christmas Eve.
Yes.
We're very excited about that.
Yeah, and I need to watch that movie again. I remember it being pretty good.
Well, the guy who did the Krampus movie, the big Krampus, there are other movies that are called Krampus, but they have subtitles. It's a Krampus, Christmas Savior, whatever
Yeah.
it is, yeah. But Krampus was done by the dude who did Trick or Treat.
Oh, that explains why I liked it then.
Yeah.
I remember liking it, but I think I only watched it once, so I got to put that on the list.
Toni Colletti's in it.
Who's that?
She was in the United States of Terra and a bunch of
Oh,
other stuff. Yeah,
I love her.
Yeah,
Love her. And
she's
she was
great.
Hereditary. She was the mom.
exactly.
Oh my god. She's incredible. And I loved United States of Terra, by the way.
That is a good show.
It should have kept going, honestly.
3 seasons, man.
Oh my god, I'll just never forget the one line. My name is Buck and I will fuck you. Like it's like cuz she
so
had all
for
these,
those of you who
Oh my
don't know,
God.
yeah, United States of Terror was about a character who had multiple personality disorder, and you got to know the personalities, and yeah,
And I remember because Buck was my favorite one, which was just like a redneck dude, was one of her personalities, who's just a stereotypical drinking Budweiser, dude kind of thing. And literally, they were him and his, her and her husband were gonna like have sexy time. And he was all
Sexy
excited.
time.
You know, she was like, oh, I'm getting ready. He's like, okay. And he runs to the other room. You know, he takes a shower. And he comes out. And he comes in the room. And there she is in the flannel with the hat, with the beer, like, and passing him a beer because she had turned into
Buck.
Buck.
No more sexy time.
That was the line. It was like,
The
my name is Buck, and I will fuck you sideways.
The husband in that was the dude who was in My Big Fat Greek Wedding. He was in all those. He's the husband from that.
And he was a trooper in that show.
He was, but you know, do you remember the daughter?
Yeah.
It's Brie Larson.
Yep.
It's Captain Marvel.
That's right.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
she did great in that. No, that was a great
it was
show.
It was a good show. It's a good show. Just good cast. And I know there was a son, and he did really well in it. And I think he ended up being in a movie with Zach Galifianakis and Emma Roberts. And it was they were in a psych ward. I don't know. I went down a rabbit hole. Don't worry about it. None of that fucking matters.
No, she's a great actress, so that gives promise for me.
No matter how you feel about the latest Marvel's movie, the actress herself, very talented.
Very.
In just our, I don't mean to speak for you. In my opinion, and apparently Ryan as well.
Yes, indeed.
Excellent.
Indeed.
And you know
props
what?
From here.
You know what is really, really cool about Brie Larson? Did you know she has no idea how to transfer into the next segment? She just can't figure it out. So that's why the next segment of the show is
Disclosure Discussion. Ha 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 ha. It's about aliens and stuff.
Mysterious orb over Egypt baffles viewers. This comes to us from coasttocoastam.com. Early Sunday morning, a mysterious pink orb appeared in the skies over parts of Egypt, baffling onlookers.
I'm baffled. I'm fucking baffled, bro.
He's befuddled.
I just do not understand what I am saying. I don't mean to make fun. If I saw something floating in the sky, I would be pretty concerned and not know what it was either. So,
Well, yeah, right.
Yeah, fair enough.
Well, the curious phenomenon lasted for several hours before disappearing. Footage of the large object, which has gone viral, shows a large object hovering motionless in the sky, occasionally trailing white residue.
It poops.
That's poop. On last
I'm
Sunday,
imagining just like a floating fish. I don't know. Sky fishes.
I was going to say getting into
Getting into.
Oh, I'm terrible that I'm sorry. I'm not going to mention it again. Last Sunday.
You want to try to make a reference. You got to
I know. I forgot
what you're talking about.
I thought I had the name and then it escaped me.
Fair enough.
It was the one where it wasn't a UFO. It was alive.
You get one mulligan each show. And by the way, that was Nope.
Thank you.
The film Nope by Jordan Peele.
I almost said Nope, but I thought I was wrong.
On
last Sunday.
You know what Nope was? Jaws.
Kind of was.
Yeah. Almost beat by beat.
Almost was. I just watched Jaws.
Yeah. Nope was Jaws. And it was, yeah.
I literally just watched Jaws. That's funny. You're right. So.
Blew your mind, right?
So on last Sunday morning, nearly at 6:30 a.m., many people in Alexandria of Egypt had seen a strange, cloudy pink spot in the sky. Witnesses, on average, reported that at first it was white as the size of the moon.
Cool. Yeah, it's like the shape of just a big white orb.
And most people had mistaken it as the moon itself. Then it grew larger. And later, it diffused as a smoke very fast, wrote one Reddit poster. Explanations of the orb have included the planet Jupiter and the after effects of a rocket launch, which is sometimes accompanied by a whitish residue, but so far, nothing is certain.
Yeah, so no one knows what this is. It's a big white orb that basically looks like the moon, but then it's kind of turned like pinkish or orange. And once again, a bunch of witnesses, a bunch of things. So while this may not necessarily be attributed to aliens, it's definitely a unidentified flying something. It is a UAP. We don't know what this phenomenon is. I mean, orbs in the sky are not completely unheard of. We know about ball lightning. We know about a lot of things. Foo Fighters back in the day in World War II were talked about being bright orbs. So It's not that this is a completely unheard of phenomenon. It's that it is an unexplained phenomenon.
And we got photos right here,
Yeah.
and I mean you can blatantly see it.
Yeah, I hate to promote X, but on this X post, we have a bunch of photos. And I mean, this was
From
above Egypt. People saw this.
from at Hagazi84, yeah, they posted. I can't read the language. I'm guessing it's Egyptian
Sure.
or whatever.
No, I don't mean to disrespect whatever language they speak
Yep.
in Egypt. Continue.
Indeed. I don't know. My bad. But yeah, no, you can clearly see these photos here. So I don't know, and you know how I feel about orbs. I think that that is like the highest suggestion to me because we see it so much with the Foo Fighters onto now.
Yeah. So
With-
what do you have a theory? What
It's
is
got to
your
be
theory on-
interdimensional. It's got to be.
Okay.
Or it's just some kind of plane that we do not like. It literally to us, it just looks like light.
What if it's like a bubble in space time, man?
Could be that.
Yeah,
It could
it's an
be
entrance to a wormhole, maybe.
worm. I was about to say that. We talk often about wormholes on the podcast, and because
Cause we're perverts.
well, let's face it. You know, how many times can you just enter the other realm from Earth? And I mean, we've heard about it. Like, there's always a new Bermuda Triangle somewhere that we're finding where
Yeah.
mysterious happenings, disappearances, things
Well,
of that nature.
I do remember reading a novel that was talking about how like wormholes aren't just like, I mean, we imagine them as this big portal in space that'll take us across the universe, but theoretically and this is what the article was saying, not me personally. I haven't done the research, but it was saying that theoretically they could happen anywhere, which includes on Earth. And yet, like you were just saying, Bermuda Triangle, other places, maybe people are being moved or things are being moved to one place to another through wormholes that are smaller. Some maybe that's the size of a pinprick, maybe it's the size of a SUV, maybe it is as big as a whole planet.
And who knows if you're not just torn to shreds in wherever you're going, like
buddy.
wherever you're going, like because you get there and what if it's a portal to a whole nother like dimension of like because we're what third dimensional, fourth?
Yeah, what if it's a
like,
two-dimensional thing? We just get
and
crushed.
you just
Our organ,
you just get flattened, crushed, or something. Wherever you go, you just become like solid, and because you can't exist.
Dude, I love sci-fi. I've loved sci-fi my whole life. I grew up with my dad and me watching the Sci-Fi Channel of just old reruns of sci-fi stuff, the 90s sci-fi stuff. I love it. I love it. But we are humans, and humans have a very specific amount of like things like pressure. Things
We
you
don't
wouldn't
even
think
do
about.
good on
Like,
this planet. We
so
all
it's
got
like-
bad backs and
I'm
shit.
just saying, like, we go to any other planet, and it's like, all right, hypothetically, if there was the right gravity where we can stand, the right pressure where our lungs don't explode, the right
Where we don't lose
cosmic
bone
rays
mass.
where like, yeah, exactly, where the cosmic rays where we don't get cancer immediately or go blind because it's too bright, or you know what I mean? Like, it's not gonna be a situation. Like, I don't know if in reality we will ever be able to visit a planet or anything in the universe without some kind of suit, because we are built for whatever we're built for, except maybe Mars. Because like Mars, you know what's kind of crazy is our cicada rhythm. I'm mispronouncing that, but basically,
I think you're right, cicada.
yeah, well, when we go to space, it reverts to a longer day than we have on Earth. And
Yeah.
it reverts to like basically a Mars day.
Mhm.
And they say that's one of those theories that like humans may have come from Mars
A long time ago.
a long time ago and colonized Earth. And we're actually, for many things like maybe skin cancer and all this other stuff, is because we're too close to the sun. It all comes
Yeah.
to maybe we originated from Mars. Life could have existed on Mars.
Well, right, and it could have been us, and for all we knew, something terrible happened, and that's why, like, maybe there was like a horrible, like maybe the trip didn't go so well, and when they got here, a lot of them were sick, and that's why, like, I think there just wasn't any proof for us to be like, oh no, we came from Mars, and we just lost all that information, and now we're stuck here, and our backs hurt, and my knee hurts,
I mean,
and like everything sucks, and
it's
like-
crazy. We wouldn't know because there you could look at the ice cores, you could look at different there's cliffs, I believe, in Europe somewhere where they show like the ages of the time, because long story short, there's proof out there that there was a global flood, and that the Noah myth, excuse me, or religious belief of there being a mass flood is proven true, that there was a massive flood. So
Right.
at that time, we lost any kind of civilization or information that we had before that. So hypothetically, we did come from Mars. If that was like on record in human history, it would have been lost at that time.
Yeah, exactly. We would never know. And just like this,
Yeah, like his life could exist on Mars still today.
alien life may still survive on Mars in an area deep beneath the ground.
It's another article, son.
This comes to us from unexplainedmysteries.com.
This so unexplained.
New research has highlighted a place on Mars where we could still potentially find primitive alien life forms.
Allegedly.
For decades, scientists have been attempting to determine if alien life does or ever did exist on the red planet like us. A place that, in the distant past, was a lot more like the Earth, with rivers and oceans of liquid water and an environment that was far more hospitable than it is today. NASA has sent several rovers to explore the Martian surface, and these have consistently found tantalizing signs that Mars could have once supported primitive alien life forms. Direct evidence of actual organisms, however, has so far proven elusive. Now, though a new study has highlighted that could be the most promising place to look for alien life on Mars today, a subsurface region that lies between 4.3 and 8.8 kilometers beneath a vast and ancient plain known as Sedalia Plantitia.
That was a pretty good try.
This particular subsurface zone is believed to have the right conditions to support life, including shelter from the harsh surface conditions,
Super harsh.
residual geothermal heat, and traces of water.
I like water.
And I feel like we just covered that like a while ago. Remember, we had that cool little clip I found about how we pretty much think that we can now survive on the moon because they were doing experiments in these like craters, basically in these caves.
Yeah,
And
in
they
some
found,
of the
holy crap,
caves. It's a perfect temperature
it's
to
like
survive.
60 something degrees 24/7.
And space exploration is getting so much more viable in my mind. Like I was talking about how I don't think we can ever go to another blah 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 blah. But like that being said, space exploration in our own solar system, we're getting a better grasp on.
Well, and there's a reason why we have creatures that survive down in caves, down where we're like, holy shit, look at all these things. And it's like, that's kind of us in the future, right? Going to these other planets, we're going to have to do that. We're going to have to go underground just to survive.
Yeah. Do you think that we would ultimately live somewhere long enough to adapt to the environment, or genetically alter our bodies to adapt to the environment, or live our lives in some kind of like space suit or tunnels? Like, where do you think humanity would go in that case?
I think adaptation would just take the helm.
Adaptation would take the helm. If we had enough time, though, right? Because it's like
It would take a long time.
yeah, if you're a big fan of that whole evolution theory, then I would say, by the way, I am. I'm just saying, like, it takes millions of years.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It takes and that's like I said, if we had to to go somewhere, and that's the best we had.
So would we genetically alter ourselves to fit the environments around us, to conquer the worlds that we want to conquer?
Well, that's what we do.
That is what we do.
America, oh, fuck yeah.
It's not our fault we're not in charge.
America, oh, fuck yeah.
It's not America, it's humanity. I hate to say it, but it is humanity, because you think about like the Native Americans. It was a Native American spirit, so we'll say it.
Mhm.
I mean, Europe comes, they have more technology, so they win, is kind of the...
It never bodes well for those with less.
Yeah, so it's like, that's why the whole idea of an alien, invasion is rough, because if they have enough technology to get to us, chances are they have more technology than we have to oppose them, and it probably won't go well.
We are ultimately at their mercy.
Rude awakening.
So, back to the alien life that might survive on Mars. It's also quite a large area. The
Wait,
plane,
What's
it's-
Carl? What? Jump back.
the particular subsurface zone that is believed to have the right conditions to support life, including shelter from the harsh surface conditions, residual geothermal heat, and it has traces of water. So it is also a quite a large area. The plane itself stretches over 3,000 kilometers across. To find life there, however, it would be necessary to send a rover or a lander capable of drilling down several kilometers and retrieving samples to study.
Yeah, they're basically saying we need to do more. They want to cover their ass. So we need to do more research. We need to see about the water, the weather. But it seems like temperature and conditions that we are aware can support life on Earth may exist on Mars. Very cool. Very cool.
Where's Bruce Willis when you need him? He just needs to go up there and drill. That's all he's got to do.
Oh man, I mean that was. I gotta be honest. I have no disrespect to anyone who gets to make a movie, but Michael Bay films not exactly my thing. Although Armageddon, since you bring it up,
I love that movie.
fantastic.
I love that movie.
It is so over the top, like fucking like humanity.
Yeah. No, I like that. That's one of my faves. So
what do you think about this?
It says here, this makes the region a tantalizing target for future missions to the Red Planet. So
That makes sense.
So, I mean, that's important to me because I'm all for it, exploration of space. I know it's a big deal. I know it's hard to do, and we've done so much.
I mean, I know you're just like, you're big on microbial life, like basically like
Anything.
Yeah. And Mars has proven almost, I mean, legitimately that like there probably is still, but we definitely know there was.
Like, yeah, they totally found like fossils.
They
of-
did.
Yeah, of microbial life. So, I mean, we know.
I mean, that's big news.
That is huge news. And then, you got crazy stories. We talked about it here. The one kid who was able to astral project himself and he like went to Mars and he even saw like people like hiding in caves and stuff like that. Like there's crazy stories.
I don't know. I mean, that's awesome.
I'm going to have to
Yeah,
I'm gonna do
find
some
some
research. I'm
articles
gonna
about
find something
that
about-
shit. So some kid astral projected and met civilization on Mars. Because like I was talking about, like, what do you think exists? Do you think that there are life on Mars, like little cats running around, or do you think there's straight up beings and people? And you, according to the article you just said, this child or person who astral projected thought they saw civilizations and thinks. So yeah, find that. I mean, I can't speculate on something I haven't even read, dude. You gotta give me that shit.
Yeah, I remember watching it and it was fascinating because they said he was able to, like, they gave him coordinates and he could like put himself there and he was right. Like about when it
He was
came
right about what? Like
like
we're talking about
the
like
geography.
mountains and
yeah. Like and they were like he was pretty effing spot on. But what he said is he remembered seeing very, very tall, slender people, gray skinned, that were frightened. They were scared. They were hiding.
Okay, I can't lie to you. This is very, very, very intriguing. But we need to go off something. We can't just
I'll
go
find
off,
it.
Yeah, we can't
I'll
just
find
go off like I have a vague memory of some article I read.
Oh, I'll find it.
Okay,
I'll find it,
do
Joe.
But hey man, fantastic disclosure discussion.
No, thank you, man. No, you found some good ones today, dude. And I love this kind of shit. Like, this is what we like to talk about. And please don't forget, you can always email us if you've got something, if you've seen something, or
We would love to hear, and we would even interview you if you have a personal UFO encounter.
Indeed. Go ahead and email us at earthlingentertainmentpodcast@gmail.com. The whole thing there. And yes, please, we'd love to hear from you.
Also, you could hit us up on the Facebook if you have a Facebook account.
Yep, we will hear you out. We are a safe space. No judgments here. Absolutely not. We love UFOs and we love you.
We love UFOs. UFOs are, you know what? Whether you believe they're real or not, I believe in some cases they absolutely are. The whole concept is considered kind of weird, and just weird things have always been fun for me personally. I've always enjoyed them. Have you?
Well, of course. I mean, I remember growing up on like all the weird books and stuff, like weird records, weird Guinness Book of World Record shit. Like,
Exactly. And you know what? It's fun when, so speculation aside, supernatural aside, just kooky things that could happen in just our normal lives are
Earthlings.
are also pretty fun. And that brings us to our next segment, which is
Real World Weird.
Notorious Gnome Snatcher comes forward nearly 50 years after strange caper.
Notorious.
Notorious. This comes to us from coasttocoastam.com. A British man has taken responsibility for a bizarre decades-old case wherein a slew of garden gnomes were stolen and replaced with ransom notes.
Because he's a baller.
The weird caper, which reportedly occurred in the small town of Formby back in 1977, received considerable media attention at the time as reporters flocked to the community to cover the curious disappearance of so many lawn ornaments.
Not a lot going on.
Right. Not a lot. The case remained an odd local mystery for decades until last week, when the man dubbed the Phantom Gnome Snatcher of Formby stepped forward to apologize for his actions and share his side of the strange story.
To be fair, I want to hear his side. I want to know.
Using what is presumed to be only his first name, Arthur. The infamous gnome thief spoke to British radio host Vernon Kay about the 1977 caper that the then 15-year-old pulled off with the help of his 5-year-old brother.
Okay, so I'm going to give him some credit here because he not only at a 15 years old did this silly thing, but kept it like, I don't know if he was in fear of getting in trouble or if he was like, no, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait till I'm like old as hell and then I'm going to tell people. But like giving him credit for keeping his mouth shut all those years aside, he kept his 5-year-old brother.
It's a pretty cool prank.
From saying anything.
Oh, it's a pretty cool prank, honestly. Like, good for them. Like, that it lasted so long and that people actually, it got media coverage. So while he mused that I still can't remember what made me do it, he recounted how the idea seemingly occurred to him after he was struck by the sight of one particular lawn ornament that left him wondering the purpose of the peculiar decoration.
Yeah, they're not saying it, but he was high. He was looking over at that lawn ornament. He's looking at it, and there's this whole display. This woman like distinctly put the ornaments facing certain directions, and like they were dressed, and there's little houses. And he just looked, and he was like, "But why?
Yeah.
Why, Ryan?
What are you looking at, man?
But why?" Which, honestly, the answer is people find joy in all kinds of things. But from a 15-year-old kid who's high, I can see his standpoint.
I mean, yeah, it's a gnome. It's a gnome. If you're really high and it's a good gnome, you're probably going to take that gnome.
I mean, this is
when you're 15.
Yeah, this is basically basic. How I would have felt at 15 is what I'm basing this on, is all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I agree. and I mean, that's just simple mischief. Honestly,
exactly.
he didn't hurt anybody.
Point. That's the point. It's like climbing onto your school's roof. It's like, okay, you didn't have to call the cops. We're not breaking anything. We were dumb kids. Take a fucking pill.
Or
relax.
removing the L from the gymnasium's pool, so it
says gymnasium's poo. I mean, hats off to our buddy who we won't name just in case their cops are still looking for him.
I was gonna say, and the legend continues to this day on who did it, and as well,
they got rid of the pool.
They don't even bother with the pool now because
they took it off
because people just kept removing the L.
It was gymnasium poo forever.
It lives on.
That's a Fort High School.
That's right.
I tip my hat
That's
to.
right to whoever did that. So,
Zach.
So, back to this interesting gnome caper.
Apparently, Ryan's having trouble finding his spot.
He
Bear
explained,
with him.
stalling. He explained that the duo subsequently surveyed the neighborhood, and when they surveyed the number of gnomes that could be found throughout before then, we went out and collected them, so to speak, is what he said.
So to speak.
In place of the gnomes, Arthur recalled he and his brother left behind fairly amateurish ransom notes, demanding a meager 25 pence for the statue's safe return. When none of the victims paid up after 3 days, the pair put them all back again and thought absolutely nothing of it.
Yeah, I get that, because there was this kids trying to get money. So I'm not going to tell you how old we were because it's embarrassing. But at one point, Ryan and I needed some extra cash. And Ryan, because he was a Boy Scout,
Oh boy.
he would wear his Boy Scout uniform, and we went door to now. Mind you, we're not like con artists. We did this once. We went door to door.
It was once.
And
This was once.
Yes, and we asked we were collecting cans and bottles for something.
So I said it was for our lesser privileged members of the troop so that they could participate in summer camp.
No, I thought it was to go see Wicked live or something.
No, it was totally for. I said for summer camp.
All
Because
right,
summer
fair
camp does
enough.
cost money.
It does.
So that I remember we said that and it
And-
was wrong.
Yeah, it
but-
was wrong. And we
but it worked.
And I remember, and we didn't get too much. We weren't like assholes. We only got like 40 or 50 bucks, and we just we went and just bought a bunch of McDonald's. We had like
yeah.
a pile of fries and a bunch
Uh,
of what was it? The back of the day it was a Big and Tasty.
Well, back in the day, it's if you collected a few empties, you could actually buy something with it. Like, now you can't.
But that was a good like 15, 16-year-old mischief, but like
Correct.
celebration, right?
Correct,
Like,
right.
Like, hey, let's eat a bunch of junk food.
There's nothing wrong with that. So however how they returned the ornaments made the case all the more mysterious, Joe.
Because
As
they did it like, geez, they didn't get caught.
to the astonishment of the residents, the two kids opted to place all 18 of the pilfered pieces. I like that. The pilfered pieces on that sounds like a coffee shop band. We are the pilfered pieces.
And the pilfered pieces.
Yes. On a park roundabout overnight. While Arthur asked his victims to forgive him, one imagines that will not be much of a problem as nearly 50 years later, the elaborate prank is fondly remembered by those in Formby as the community's unusual 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah, exactly. So the locals like it, and everyone who is affected is essentially dead.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, let's just be honest.
my gnome.
Yeah. Like, there's one 8-year-old who's just like, "Yeah, son of a bitch,
They took Captain Sprinkles.
dude. What if he goes straight up John Wick? Like, this is a straight up like old man who's just like, I ain't standing for this shit.
Fucking grabs the sledgehammer, goes down to the basement. Just, I never knew I'd be doing this, and he's just breaking apart, and it's all these freaking.
shouldn't have taken Mr. Sprinkles.
That's right, and it's all just like gnome themed guns and stuff. Like the butts of them are like gnome feet and stuff like that. And he's just like,
So
it's
death.
on.
So much death.
That's right, and all this Kevlar, he looks like one of Santa's elves. Like,
Oh my
it's
god.
on.
That is on. Dude, it's unbelievable. That is unbelievable.
Earthling Entertainment special report. Eldris Abba will play Duncan in the live-action Masters of the Universe movie. Whoa. The next Final Destination movie, Final Destination Bloodline, will be released in theaters May 16th, 2025. That's next year. And that title is redundant. It certainly is. Michael Mann confirms that he was finally ready to make his long-awaited sequel to Heat 2. The original cast will return. It will be his next film. That's gonna be so hot. This has been an Earthling Entertainment special report.
Calling all comic fans, it's time to feed your brain at Green Brain Comics, where the freshest new issues, graphic novels, and manga hit the shelves every week. Whether you're looking for the hottest new series or the latest small press sensation, we've got it all. Every genre for every age, Green Brain Comics is your one-stop shop for all things graphic storytelling. Got questions? Our friendly staff knows their stuff. Whether you're a longtime fan or new to the world of comics, we've got recommendations that'll keep you coming back for more. And don't forget to check out our special events. Green Brain Comics is not just a store, it's a community. Located in East Downtown Dearborn, we are at Green Brain Comics on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Shop online at greenbraincomics.com, and remember to feed your brain at Green Brain Comics.
Dude, fuck. You know what else is unbelievable?
No.
Do you know Paul McCartney was going to make a musical about aliens?
You were telling me about this and I never knew, but it doesn't surprise me.
Well, dude, listen, we'll explore all of it right now in this week's
Music Mumbles.
The bizarre Paul McCartney alien musical that never was. This comes to us from TheGuardian.com. It is the film that never was, an unlikely sci-fi musical about aliens dreamed up by Paul McCartney.
I can't lie. I found this so intriguing. One, that I never knew about it because this touches upon all the stuff that I would normally know about. And just two, the people he was collaborating with to possibly make this a thing. I just strap in, guys.
And this was, I hate this term though, it makes me feel old. This was half a century ago. I could have just said 50 years ago. The aliens would have landed in a flying saucer, but the project never got off the ground. Now the former Beatles treatment for the film and an expanded version by the American sci-fi writer Isaac Asimov.
Yeah, famous sci-fi writer. Like, I don't know how familiar you are with him, but this would be like saying Stephen King. Like, it's a big deal. Yeah.
Okay. That McCartney turned down.
Yeah, he didn't like it.
Have been unearthed in a U.S. archive by the authors Alan Kozin and Adrian Sinclair while researching a forthcoming book. The treatment's discovery is revealed in The McCartney Legacy, Volume 2, 1974 to 1980, published by HarperCollins on the 10th of December. After his success with the Beatles, McCartney formed Wings, which included his wife Linda and the former Moody Blues guitarist Denny Lane, and became one of the best-selling bands of the 1970s. Their hits included Mull of Kintyre, forgive me if I'm saying that wrong, a melancholy ballad that outsold every Beatles single in the UK.
Which is crazy. I know Beatles were huge in the United States. Notice it said specifically that this Wings song sold all in the UK.
Yeah.
Better. Any Beatles single?
And and the Beatles, that's what got Ozzy Osbourne into music. Did you know that? The Beatles were
I did not.
He always says the Beatles were his biggest influence for Black Sabbath.
I bet if we broke that down and really kind of unpacked that, it would make so much sense.
It honestly does. I heard that a while back. I don't know. I love Ozzy. And honestly, I've just been starting to listen to the Beatles lately for some reason. I don't know why.
Because you're getting older. It happens.
And I never listened to them before. And
Yeah.
they got some jams, dude.
They do. I would highly recommend a film called Across the Universe.
I saw it. I was just talking to my girlfriend about it last night.
It is.
I saw that.
It's so artsy it hurts, and it is a musical that basically takes all the Beatles song and wraps it into
The Let It
a
Be scene.
narrative.
Oh, I can't.
Ooh.
That's a heavy
Across
one.
the Universe. If you want to watch a musical that'll move you, and you have to be a fan of musicals and a fan of Beatles, but if you are, blow your mind.
And
so good.
that movie, I think, was ahead of its time too when it came to a lot of the subject matter as well, for when it came out. So
I love that film. Continue.
yeah. So back to this bizarre Paul McCartney alien musical that never was.
Never was, but I would have seen it. Hold on. I would have seen it.
He would have. The Fab Four had made.
Hold on. I would have seen it.
The Fab Four had made several films.
That was so unnecessary.
I
I'm
love
sorry.
it.
Yeah.
Honestly, we could just do that the whole podcast.
I
I'd be cool with
never
that.
play with the board.
I'm a vocalist. I'm a former metal vocalist. I love me some reverb.
We got some weird stuff. So I'm not going to lie. We bought this board from, it's not important, but they make choices. They clearly rip things off that they're not supposed to have access to. This is probably not licensed to the board.
No, not at all, but this one's still the best. I don't even care. Copyright Earthling Entertainment.
Continue.
So the Fab Four had made several films, including A Hard Day's Night, and McCartney wanted his new band to star in one. He came up with a story about a band of aliens who arrive on Earth, morphing into the members of Wings before challenging the real Wings musicians.
I mean, because you got to. That just makes sense.
Spanning almost 400 words, his treatment began. A flying saucer lands. Out of it, get 5 creatures. They transmute before your very eyes into us, the Wings. They are here to take over the Earth by taking America by storm as they proceed to do this supergroup style. Meanwhile, back in the sticks of Britain lives the original group whose personalities are being used by the aliens. With a working title of 5 and 5 and 1. It had a loose plot outline with dialogue fragments and plot turns seemingly intended to incorporate some of McCartney's new songs. Among its eccentric details is an apparent reference to Laurel and Hardy. He wrote, on board the boat, they are feeling depressed, huddling leather-jacketed in the corner above alcove. In the corner alcove
It's
of
okay.
the
Take a
dining
breath,
room.
bud.
Yeah. Another fine mess you got us into, Stanley, says one of the group. In 1974, hoping to collaborate on a script, McCartney went to New York to see Asimov, who was too scared of flying to come to London.
Yeah, so they had to meet up there. Yeah. And this is this is such a good sci-fi writer. Like he did I don't have to tell you. I assume people who listen know who he is. I'm more telling you, Ryan. It's a big deal. He was a big deal guy.
No, I like that. So McCartney told Cousin he can imagine himself into far-off galaxies, but he wouldn't get on a plane. Ooh, so that was like a diss?
I mean, it's fair, right? Because it's like if I could help it, I would never fly. I hate flying. I used to travel when I lived in LA and I was traveling home for Christmas or things like that. I would take a 3-day train ride and I would literally take a train.
Yep.
And I didn't even get a sleeper car. And I preferred that. Once I got married and I was with my wife, we did the train once and she was like, "No, we're flying. You're gonna deal with it."
It's considerably shorter.
It is. It's like a 3 to 5 hour flight versus a 3-day train ride.
I never faulted you for it.
I love the train. I hate flying, so I get it. I get this author because I don't know. I understand.
And I understand too. Flying, I don't think I'll ever be 100% on, but I'm definitely doing better.
Fly.
I'm doing a lot better when it comes to flying.
Sure.
It probably helps because my girlfriend's a flight attendant and soon to be pilot. She is a pilot.
Yeah, you're gonna have to fly, man, a lot.
Yeah,
she's gonna make you fly. You're gonna die in a private plane. I want you to know that.
And you know what? That's pretty sweet.
I mean, there's worse ways to go.
Yeah, you know.
I mean, it'll be quick for sure.
I mean, you could be an awesome alien story that never got told. You know.
Oh yeah, like this Paul McCartney. Way to try to get back there, bud. Let's continue.
Asimov, whose Foundation novels are considered among the greatest sci-fi books ever written, expanded and reshaped McCartney's treatment into a 5-page version. He turned the aliens into energy beings from a dying planet who want to occupy rather than clone the Wings musicians, while being incapable of understanding human emotions such as love.
I can't feel love.
Like that sounds like the wrong people to be like inhabiting. Like
it's
all their songs are like love songs.
That's
like,
very classic though, right? Right? Like that's essentially what Terminator 2 Judgment Day was. Like I know
now why you cry. Yeah,
exactly.
I knew the line immediately as you said it.
That's what it is, but it is a tale as old as time. So I get what he was trying to tap into, is my point.
So he wrote that they communicate through thought waves when they hear music being played. They are strangely affected and decide that they must use the musical key to unlock human emotion.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. That tracks. I get it.
Sinclair described the treatment by Asimov, who died in 1992, age 72, as a love conquers all tale in which mankind escapes alien conquest and inherits the universe.
Ooh.
He's-
Asimov was a genius, man. I mean, I don't agree with everything, personally. I'm just saying I agree with all his writing concepts. I love the stories.
Okay. So he spoke of his astonishment that these film treatments have been overlooked among Asimov's papers. They've just been sitting there, he said. Paul's treatment reads like something Paul and Linda cooked up while they were smoking something particularly potent.
It happens.
The Laurel and Hardy reference is really bizarre. You can't really comprehend what Asimov would have made of that. Cousin, who was a music critic and culture reporter for the New York Times from 1977 to 2014, said, "We actually have the correspondence between McCartney and Asimov. We've gotten McCartney's treatment, and we've got what Asimov did with the treatment, which McCartney didn't particularly like."
Yeah, too many changes. And I get that, right? Like as a writer in my early years, I remember this particular time and it was in college and I wrote a script and it was something small. It was a stupid little assignment, but it was, basically like, you have to involve a glove, a piece of medicine, where they give you like 3 or 4 things and you have to incorporate it in like a 2-minute script. Well, long story short, I wrote something and I was so attached to it that when the director, because I wasn't there when they filmed it, went off and basically did his own thing based very loosely on what I wrote, I was pissed. And I remember
Rightfully so.
no, that's the thing as a writer, right? Like I rightfully so
You
is
can't help how you feel about it, though.
it's true, but in hindsight. So the head of film in our school, which was Charles Kanganis. Now he was the director of what was it? Three Ninjas Kickback. Do you remember that?
No.
And he did it. And he did a Dennis the Menace movie.
Of course he did.
But the point is, he was he's done. He's worked. He's done the shit. But he told me he tried to convey a really important lesson to me at the time, where he was just like, "Look, dude, in the film industry, and this is my words, not his. In the film industry, people are gonna change things, and if you are just, unfortunately, just the writer, the director's gonna." Maybe do what he wants, and it's like you have to be you have to be loose. You have to let it happen. You have to be able to work with people, do rewrites, change, kill your babies, essentially. And I might not be describing it well enough, but it was a very important lesson that at the time I did not receive properly. Like I sat there with a smug ass look on my face, and then when it was all over, just like, yeah, I'd rather they take my name off it. Like, ooh, I fucked
Pulled
up.
a Humpty Dumpty.
Yeah, I fucked up in that moment, but it's just
That's all right. That's all right.
I
No,
doubt
you learned.
I doubt the gentleman would ever listen to this. So
Sounds like you learned.
I did learn.
Yeah.
I did learn, but I mean that's just the point, right? Like it's all about perspective and the time you are in that place. And at the time, Paul McCartney couldn't take the change that Asimov was trying to promote. Asimov was trying to be like, hey, these are, from a sci-fi writer perspective, your ideas in a more refined way. Whereas Paul McCartney, and I don't know, but I assume as a musician had a less grasp on writing in a narrative form. It's hard to take when people, for instance, they tell you sometimes you got to kill your babies.
And a lot of collabs have a tough time, So
Absolutely.
So there's quite a bit more here in the article here, because this is like super crazy. So by early 1975, the project was abandoned. Nothing ever became of this because McCartney couldn't recognize good stuff, was Asimov's take on the pair's failed collaboration, sprawled across the first page of his 1,800-word treatment.
Ooh, that is quite a treatment.
Discussing the excitement of seeing the actual document, Cozen said, "What's interesting is seeing what McCartney's original idea was and how a science fiction master like Asimov would try to improve it, and the fact that McCartney turned it down. We're talking about Asimov, for God's sakes," he says. The new book follows the success of Sinclair and Cousin's The McCartney Legacy, Volume 1, 1969 to 1973. The first of 5 planned volumes of McCartney's post-Beatles life and career, which was described by one critic as exhaustively detailed.
I love that. It's kind of like a diss as well as look, you're gonna get the information, but holy shit.
There's a lot. There's a
There's
lot.
a
Well,
lot.
there are so many people that are obsessed too, and there's so many fan clubs, right? So I mean, there's got to be encyclopedias written across the world about
Any-
their lives. Like
Exactly.
it's
Any
crazy.
new information about the Beatles, there's
Dude, right? The
Suck
Beatles.
right
Think
up.
about it. Like Beatles, Elvis, Kiss, like bands like that. You know, like there are people who are like they know it all.
They do. And you know what it reminds me of? There was a show in the early 2000s, maybe late 1990s, called Beat the Geeks, and it was on
I
Comedy
remember
Central.
that.
Right?
That was a good show.
It was a great show.
I haven't thought about Beat the Geeks in a minute. That was a good ass show.
Fantastic. Well, they asked you questions about pop culture, and they had like 5 geeks, and it was 4 geeks of like were established, like was a music geek, a movie geek, a TV geek. I don't remember the other
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
And then there was a special guest geek. The episode that always comes to mind is like the James Bond geek.
Yeah, they had him. I want to say we were just talking about David Cross. I swear to God, he was one of the guest geeks because like there's always like a guest famous dude for being a nerd.
Yeah, I don't even know, but I do remember that like that show, man. Oh,
That was a good show.
it was a good show.
And so would have this been. Like honestly, I'm kind of bummed that like because that would be cool to have like let's turn on the weird McCartney alien play.
I would totally watch it if it became a movie.
Well,
man.
and you know they'd make it an album.
Well, I mean the soundtrack.
Yeah.
You gotta what's called is transmedia.
Yeah.
You gotta transmedia.
So
Yeah,
When-
man.
when-
So I took a class in transmedia once.
right.
And it was this whole thing of just like, all right, so they broke it down into things where they're like, you have your story. Let's say you have a movie, right? So what is the next step? So the first step of relaunch is like you have a comic book about the people who start your movie because it's so what I did was I had an arc. I had an arc from a planet that moves because their planet's dying to another planet. And long story short, the whole story was what happens throughout their adventures. And the first wave was when they leave, why it happens, right? And it was a TV series about the destruction of their world. And then we moved on from there, where it was the creation of the Ark, which was a game that you could play on your phone. And that's the transmedia, because now it's not just a show, it's also an app and a game. And then you put it together and you're fixing the ship. And that is the whole goal of the game. Then you have a comic book about the people who are working on the ship as it's being created, and it's their story. Then you have a movie about the launching of the ship as it goes into space. And it's about how you create these different stories that are never telling the same story, but are all part of one giant story in different mediums. So you get the gamers, you get the comic book people, you get the movie people, you get the TV movie, and it's all called transmedia.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, totally.
Good idea there, Joe. I don't got nothing to add. That was
Yeah.
very well detailed and thought out, and I'm over here going like I'm absorbing.
Yeah, sure. But I mean, I get it. Sometimes the conversation dies. Sometimes things die. Sometimes
Oh, no.
actors die.
Welp.
And that brings us to
Remember that guy? Remember that gal? Well, now they're dead.
Wayne Northrup, Days of Our Lives star, dies at 77. This comes to us from ABC7 sorry, I should probably say NY.com.
it's New York.
New-
but
I was
yes,
going to say New York, but
it's
I'm like,
ABC7 New York.com. But the technical
is
word is
NY.com. Wayne Northrup, a soap opera star with roles in Days of Our Lives and Dynasty, has died at age 77. Wayne died on Friday as the Motion Picture and Television Fund's Woodland Hills home in California, according to his publicist, Cynthia Snyder. Wayne was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's 6 years ago.
That sucks, dude.
He-
I wouldn't wish Alzheimer's on anyone.
No, it's
Just
the worst.
the whole
I've
idea of
been
just
there.
like
I've seen it.
forgetting who the people in your life who matter. It hurts the people around you, and it just the fact of if it was happening to you, how scary it must be. I
It's
support any research to solve that.
I mean, like almost every sci-fi starts with like a cure to Alzheimer's. Wasn't that the whole thing with Planet of the Apes? It was supposed to be a cure to Alzheimer's.
Yeah, there was this. So I assume it was a short story in the Stephen King book because it was a TV show based on. It was called Nightmares and Dreamscapes. Stephen King's Nightmares and Dreamscapes, which is a book. So I assume it was a short story, like I said. But they made this thing in water where people they put this thing in water where people basically lived longer, and then it turned out that the thing they added to the water basically gave people early onset Alzheimer's, and
Ooh.
it basically spread, so it was in the rain.
So now you're living an
So,
extra
like,
50 to 100 years confused as shit.
basically everyone in their 30s was losing their shit. And it was just in the
Oh.
water. There's nothing you could do about it.
So, like his publicist said, he was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. It was 6 years ago. He took his last breath in the arms of his family. We wish to thank the most caring and amazing place, the motion picture and television home, for taking such great care of him. Wayne touched so many people with his sense of humor and wit. A husband for 43 years, the best dad ever to his two boys, Hank and Grady, and a rancher who loved his cows and was a friend to many. Comes from Northrop's wife, Lynn Herring Northrop. Northrop is most known for his role as Roman Brandy in the hit soap opera Days of Our Lives.
Which makes sense. Days of Our Lives.
I want to say my mom used to watch that. I remember
thousands of episodes.
like every morning was either, like I said, Regis. It's either Regis, Days of Our Lives, Married. What was not Married with Children? All of Our Children or whatever.
Sure, yeah,
There was
All of Our Children, I think is
there
right,
were
yeah.
so many soap operas, and then Price is Right.
Absolutely.
that was my whole upbringing. And so he portrayed this role for several years from 1981 to 1984, and then again from 1991 to 1994, which is when I would have known his work.
Sure, yeah, of course.
Wayne Northrop, you will be missed, you soap opera king. Like, for real.
I know.
That's a hard gig.
Dude,
They're literally like handed the script, like go.
the morning of, yeah.
Yeah. That's a hard gig, those soap operas. And
I mean, people
Yeah.
are always like, oh, soap opera actors. Be like, yeah, the reason why they might not be giving the most depth performance is because they're remembering the lines they learned 20 minutes ago.
that's what I'm saying. That's, of course, it's going to be cheesy. They're doing the best they can with what they were literally just told to say.
Soap operas
like,
are nuts.
It is. It's bizarre. It's almost like news, but not. It's like made up. Actually, a lot of news is made up. But anyways, but
Remember, we're not getting political. Moving on.
No, that's not political. That's just talking about our
Continue.
society sucks.
And speaking of society, one of the best things in society, I would say, is pop culture and movies, man.
Yeah.
I mean, just news in general of any kind of entertainment or like thing that we enjoy is just it's just welcome, in my opinion.
Are you saying what I think you're saying?
I am. And you know what that is, Ryan?
I think it's time for.
What is it time for?
It's time for.
Earthling Entertainment headlines.
Jeremy Allen White joins the Mandalorian and Grogu as Jabba the Hutt's son, Rada. This comes to us from Nerdist.com. After becoming a star thanks to his role in The Bear,
Which was a restaurant show that is doing very well.
I've seen a few clips.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's not my kind of show, but the things I've seen I really enjoyed.
Me too. Actor Jeremy Allen White is joining the Star Wars galaxy.
Bum, bum, ba-dum, bum, ba-bum. Fucking awesome.
Well, we will hear his voice at the very least. According to a report in Variety, Jeremy Allen White will be providing the voice for the son of Jabba the Hutt, known as Rada the Hutt.
Hmm?
In
I
Jon
remember Rada.
Favreau's-
I remember Rada.
That was early. That was one of the first episodes of Clone Wars.
That's, well, yeah.
Apparently, this is not a cameo role. Oh, I'm sorry. I might have skipped. This was in Jon Favreau's Mandalorian Grogu. Hardcore Star fans know that Rada the Hutt was Jabba's infant son.
That's
He
right.
He was first introduced in 2008 Star Wars The Clone Wars animated movie,
Woo woo.
which led into the beloved series. Apparently,
Do you remember that movie? They released it in theaters.
I
It was
never saw the movie, but I watched the show.
Well, the movie is on Disney Plus, so if you want
Yeah.
to watch it now, and it's basically the most rudimentary version of the animation in that show. So if from a retrospective, like if you're looking at it now, you got to really like think about, okay, this is how the animation was at the beginning, because it's sometimes hard to watch because they duplicate weird things, like the characters all like stand straight and cross their arms. Now
Yeah.
in every scene, I'm not kidding. If you watch
I remember. No,
every single one of them.
I think I told you that there was a lot of problems I had with Clone Wars and stuff like that. So, like I said, I don't know, I don't got no frame of reference for the movie, but when it comes to the show, there was a lot of things where I was like, well, that was just unnecessary. Like there was just so many episodes that were throwaway to me.
Sure.
But so back to this here. Apparently this is not a cameo role. The Rada the Hutt will play a sizable part in the film, which is
I
weird.
want to whistle on.
Which is
Sizable.
interesting, right? Because Rada the Hutt getting a huge role.
Maybe he'll be the main villain.
Maybe, or maybe he'll
He's
like
a Hutt?
collab. He
He's
might
a
collab
Hutt?
because then they save him.
Dude,
So
no,
what if he?
They save him when he's a baby. Do you remember shit that happens when
Yeah,
you're a baby?
Right, you're right. So in the Clone Wars movie, Count Dooku, Asajj Ventress, and the Separatists kidnap Rada with the help of Rada's scheming uncle, Zero the Hunt.
That makes sense.
The Separatists then frame the Jedi for the kidnapping, hoping to get Jabba to turn on the Republic and join their cause. Anakin Skywalker and his newly minted apprentice, Ahsoka Tano, eventually rescue him and clear the Jedi's name. But Star Wars fans never did find out what became of Jabba the Hutt's young child.
Well, I mean, he didn't come up again. Like in all the history of that, from the beginning of the Clone Wars all the way through Jabba the Hutt's eventual end in Return of the Jedi, when he was killed by Princess Leia being choked out by the chain, like he was just never mentioned. Now, the character is apparently survived all of those events up into about 20, 30 years after Jabba the Hutt's death into the Mandalorian age. And it makes sense. You know, it makes sense because, like,
Didn't they live a long time, like couple thousand years?
well, regardless of how long they lived, it's just a simple fact that, like, rich people sending their kid off to boarding school, like, just because he wasn't there for the events of the Star Wars that we know, I mean, I believe
They could have sent him to Nal Hutta, which was their home planet,
Or yeah, or
which
India.
means precious jewel for the record.
Ooh.
And it's literally the most disgusting smelling swamp world
But
ever.
it's called Precious Jewel. Tell me more, Ryan.
Because that's what the Hutts love. That's why they say being near Jabba the Hutt was repulsing his smell.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's a slug, bud.
Yeah.
He was much like a York from the show and bunch of books called Animorphs.
Oh boy, here we
Bring
go.
it full circle.
Here
Bring
we
it in
go. That
This
is
episode is called "Fuck You, Animorphs."
that episode is called "That Was a Long Lasso Loop Back to Here."
All right. So Jabba the Hutt smelled like shit, basically.
So, back to Jeremy Allen White joining the Mandalorian and Grogu as Jabba the Hutt's son Rada. The Mandalorian and Grogu takes place roughly 3 decades after the events of the Clone Wars.
Yeah, I nailed it.
So little Rada, who Ahsoka Tano nicknamed Stinky in the film,
It was not adorable.
won't be so little anymore. We would not be shocked if Rada now runs a criminal empire all on his own, probably taking over his dearly departed father. Although, probably not on Tatooine, as that is now Boba Fett's domain.
That's right. Now, if you were a fan or not
Totally.
Ryan loved it, of the Disney Plus animated series, The Book of Boba Fett, he basically took over.
Live action.
It was live action, and he took over the basically the whole criminal thing on Tatooine. He basically took over Jabba the Hutt's empire.
My favorite was the Twi'lek who
So-
served the mayor. Just apologies.
Well, do you remember?
Apologies.
It was good, but I do want to say, do you remember a few weeks back that the actor who plays Boba Fett said that like I have not been hit up for Mandalorian and Grogu. Do you remember that?
Yep, I did hear that he was hit up actually to reprise being at least a clone though for something.
All right, but my point is, like, if he owns Jabba the Hutt's like basically territory,
Yeah,
and if we're not going to have him in the movie, so apparently Jabba the Hutt's son is not going to be after the old grounds. He doesn't want that criminal aspect. Why would he? Well, I'm just saying, like, is he doing his own thing? I mean, it's a lot of speculation. Like, we're assuming he's going to be a gangster. Maybe he's not even a gangster. We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know, and I'm kicking myself right now because there's another big planet. It was in Knights of the Old Republic 2. It's the Smuggler's Planet,
Oh yeah.
and I forget what it's called, and it's killing me. But Nal Hutta is basically, I want to say the Smuggler's Planet is actually a moon of Nal Hutta, which is where the Hutts stay. So that's why they're like a criminal aspect. Like that's where it all starts, right there. They're
Oh,
They're
man,
the mafia bosses.
That is some like expanded universe crap I can't even wrap my head around.
And it bums me out that I can't, because it's a cool name for the planet. I just can't think of it right now. But anybody who plays Knights of the Old Republic 2 would know. But yeah, we got a little bit left here. So it says, could the Mandalorian and Grogu see Rada trying to muscle in on Boba Fett's criminal enterprise?
Could they?
Probably not, because of what Joe just described. That actor has already said he hasn't gotten hit up.
Who knows?
Maybe that was a little bit of
Yeah,
thought,
I mean,
you know?
things could have changed, right? Like if the whole movie is like 90% without him and you just need him for a few shots to like sprinkle throughout the film, they could have called him up last minute. So it doesn't necessarily mean anything.
I agree with that, and they'd be a fool to not include him. I love him so much. And then Boba having to call in his Mando buddy to help out. Ooh, we
Ooh.
could see it. We'll find out when The Mandalorian and Grogu hits theaters on May 22nd, 2026.
2026. It feels like the
Shit.
future, and that's like a year and a month away.
2 years.
Well, I mean, it's not 2 years. It's a year and a month.
It feels like a lot, Joe.
It is. It is.
You know
And
what also feels like a lot is trying to catch up with old shows. You ever like old shows and you try to, like, you're like, man, you saw a bunch of it and you're like, I'm going to catch up, and you never do. And then you hear all of a sudden
that they're doing a
that they're
reboot.
coming back.
Yeah, they're doing like that. We're gonna do it. Like Roseanne came back.
Yes. And then, of course, we don't want to get into it, but shit went down, and that ended up being incredibly different than
It's
they want.
still
And they
the
still did it.
Connors.
And
Yeah.
they still did it. They still fucking did it. So what's next, Joe?
What is next? Well, I think it just might be our next headline.
Scrubs reboot officially in the works at ABC. This comes to us from thehollywoodreporter.com. Paging Dr. Acula.
Dr. Acula, one of the lamest jokes that I loved.
A much discussed Scrubs reboot is officially in development. ABC is in the early stages of developing the project from 20th Television, whose predecessors Touchstone TV and ABC Studios produced the original series.
Makes sense.
And series creator Bill Lawrence. A reboot or revival of Scrubs has been a frequent topic of discussion among Lawrence and the show's cast.
Yeah, man, they've been discussing it for a while, and it makes sense because you assume that a character doesn't retire when the show's over, right? Like JD and his best friend Turk, they were 30s, let's say mid-30s, right, when the show ended. So assuming they continue 20, 30 years later, they're still going to be doctors. It makes sense that you can continue the story.
Yeah. At a 2022 ATX Festival panel, Lawrence said, "We're going to do it, you guys know. If you ever have an excuse to work with people you want to spend time with anyway, run to it."
Yeah, why wouldn't you? You already enjoy the fucking day.
Right.
If you can go back to high school and like if you were the basketball star, you were the the person who are the head of the AV club or whatever the fuck it was. So there's a lot of people out there who'd be like, yeah, I'd go back for like a redo. Why not do X-Files season 10 and 11?
Well, why not? So one sticking point. Lawrence, who was based on Touchstone ABC Studios during the original show's run, now has a rich overall deal with Warner Brothers TV. WB has allowed for a carve-out in his deal to work on the Scrubs reboot, although he won't serve as a showrunner should the project get a series order.
Yeah, like he could help develop it, but as far as running the show, nah, dude, you made your deal with Warner Brothers. It makes sense.
No other deals for the reboot with either cast or off-camera talent are in place as of now.
They're talking, though.
Scrubs ran for 9 seasons from 2001 to 2010. The first 7 on NBC and the final 2 at ABC. Zach Braff, Donald...
Zach Braff.
Was that it? Zach
Yeah,
Braff?
Zach Braff.
Zach Braff, Donald Faison, and Sarah Chalk headed the cast as young doctors learning on the job at Sacred Heart Hospital. Braff and Faison host a recap podcast about the series called Fake Doctors, Real Friends.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who do that. Like the guys from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia do that too, where they do a podcast where they like talk about each episode as it comes out.
The Office, they've got theirs. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Lawrence has tossed around several ideas for an update of Scrubs, including one that would feature members of the original cast along with a new crop of interns finding their way.
Ooh, and they've done that before. So
that makes sense to me. That's where I thought they'd do.
Yeah, well, that's what they have to do. It's called the Legacy sequel, where you have the original characters and then new characters too. But they kind of try to do that. So basically, the show ended after season 8. Like JD has this beautiful farewell at the end of the episode, and it is just a fantastic display of like everything they've been through and everything they learned. And then they, for some reason, did a season 9. Now, the season 9. It felt like it was supposed to be a reboot, or like a sequel series.
Weird.
Or like a change, because it was like Saved by the Bell, the next class.
Right.
Dave Franco, like James Franco's younger brother, was one of the leads in it.
He's
And
good.
they basically, it wasn't bad. They got a whole new group of cast, and they were like med students, and the legacy characters, if you will, like Turk and Dr. Cox, were basically teachers at this teaching hospital, and those characters were students. And it wasn't bad. It was just they marketed it as like Scrubs season 9, when what they should have done was make it Scrubs.
Describe it correctly.
Scrubs Med School, its own show, which the creator has said that's what the plan was. It wasn't his choice.
It was probably a studio decision. You know how that shit goes.
Yeah.
Lawrence is also a co-creator of Ted Lasso, which is inching toward a 4th season.
Which is surprising.
In Shrinking, and created Bad Monkey.
Yeah, so I don't know about that, but Shrinking is also a great show. It's Harrison Ford, and it's Jason Segel. And that is about therapists. Fantastic thing. Apple TV.
So all of which come from WBTV and stream on Apple TV Plus.
Very good.
He's also working on an HBO comedy starring Steve Carell with fellow Scrubs alum Matt Tarsus.
Absolutely. Talent follows talent, man.
Dude, I tell you, that sounds good, because honestly, everything I ever saw, I never watched Scrubs. But
Did you
it's
never
one of those
watch Scrubs?
It's one of those shows where it was on, I was like, okay.
And
then I sit and watch,
Scrubs.
and it was funny. The thing with the boss
Yeah.
was funny, and the janitor.
The feud of the janitor. Yeah, well, Scrubs was one of those shows for me personally that was like the half-hour, feel good, guilty pleasure that I could basically play. Like I would, back in the day when I was in the early 2000s, I would buy seasons of television on DVD. I'd throw in the DVD and it would play like 5 or 6 episodes till you have to put in the next DVD. But it basically the streaming version of binging a show.
Yeah.
And it was one of my favorite background shows.
I feel like for you, that would be for me like Parks and Rec. Like
Exactly. I love Parks
I
and
love
Rec.
Parks and Rec.
Exactly.
So like I mean, like everybody gets their sitcom, I feel like, and a lot of people loved Scrubs. So I really hope that they enjoy it,
Yeah,
That's where I'm at.
It's a feel good thing. I mean, You like the thing that you could put on the background and just enjoy because you know the character, you know what it's about. You know,
Ooh, Trailer Park Boys.
Trailer
That's
Park Boys,
another
They
big.
have a new
That's
movie.
the main one for me. Actually, is like for background. And I know they do the new movies and they tour. Honestly, they sell out. I've always wanted to get there, but they sell out immediately.
There's a new movie. It's in theaters this month.
Man.
It's Bubbles starting a band. I swear to God, Google it. It is
Oh,
a new
I believe
movie.
it.
It's Trailer Park Boys. I think 4. I think it's either 3 or 4. Like as far
They've
as
done
movies are concerned.
they've done so many. I love the show, and rest in peace. I forget the actor's name who played Leahy, but since that actor passed away, the new stuff. I mean, no offense to them, but I'm like, that was like my favorite part. Was like their
feud with that character.
Oh my
Yeah,
God, I am the liquor, Bo Bandy.
Well, you know, it's like do you not get joy from pop culture? From pop culture. That's why we do this.
Right. And there's a lot of things that go viral.
Yeah.
And one of them, remember, everybody knows Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
And he was Superman. He was The Witcher. But what's the one thing everybody always brought up at all of his interviews?
His nerdism, his tabletop gaming mostly, right?
Warhammer.
He loves Warhammer.
One of my old bands, Last Seen Dead, we do have a music video out there if you want to look it up. It's called...
By the way, you definitely need to look up this music video.
I was young in that.
No, say it.
Nightmares are the best part of my day, which was taken from The Ultimate Warrior. Nightmares are the best part of my day. Like, dude. And that was by my band, Last Seen Dead. But they would play Warhammer when we were done jamming. And they would bring out like rulers and stuff. Like they would this was a whole game they had.
Warhammer is a tabletop game where people go all out. They paint
huge.
Models. There's a very intricate rules. It's adjacent to Dungeons and Dragons, but it's this whole thing. And wonderful. Honestly, the only reason why I never got into it is because I didn't have the money to buy the models and I didn't have the friends who wanted to join me on the campaign.
I knew people who literally made money hanging out at like the halls where everybody plays tournaments and such, being like, I'll paint your figurines for you.
Yeah,
like they literally would be like, what do you want? And they'll paint it. And so literally it was brilliant. And I'm sure they were in cahoots with whatever shop they were at.
But I mean, that makes sense because I am a fantasy fan. I am a sci-fi fan, but I'm not necessarily an artist. And I have never really tried to paint a figure. Like when I played Dungeons and Dragons, I bought characters who were already painted. But Warhammer's different. They're all essentially this like gray mold, and you have to decide what their armor looks like, if you want to make individual insignia. That's all part of the journey, man.
So this next story is absolutely no surprise. Games Workshop and Amazon finalized deal for Henry Cavill's Warhammer 40,000 cinematic universe.
Orcs in space, mother trucker.
This comes to us from mygn.com. It's official. Games Workshop and Amazon have finalized their deal for Henry Cavill's Warhammer 40,000 cinematic universe.
Blows your mother trucker mind.
In December 2023, Games Workshop said it would work with Amazon for a period of 12 months ending December 2024 to agree creative guidelines for the films and television series to be developed by Amazon. And that agreement will only proceed if creative guidelines are mutually agreed between Games Workshop and Amazon. Now, just in the nick of time, Games Workshop has issued what it called a major update on Amazon Studio Warhammer Stories, confirming the deal got across the finish line and those creative guidelines have been agreed.
Thank God, because why deprive the public of another beautiful sci-fi, universe?
Especially led by a person who respects its origins.
Oh my God.
That's where everything fails. Whenever they take a video game and try to... The only thing that ever fails is they try to do something different. You know what I mean? And it's like, why? Just you've got it all right there. That's what we want.
You are absolutely right. And Henry Cavill is, it's nice to have a nerd in power, if I do say so myself.
Hear, hear. It's official. It's worth noting that under the terms of agreement, Amazon has the option to license equivalent rights in the Warhammer Fantasy universe following the release of any initial Warhammer 40,000 production.
Nice.
As for now, a synopsis and ordering for the stories set to be told in Amazon's Warhammer 40,000 films and television series is now in place. It might have taken a year, but it was a year well spent, Game Workshop said. That's good. They're excited.
Yeah,
And-
they're happy. Well,
yeah.
we got there. We worked at it. We got
I
there.
like that. I hate when they sound begrudging. And what fun sifting through the enormity of the Warhammer 40,000 universe, debating characters, story arcs, and the thematic grit that underpins it all. Nice. And we got
Yeah.
more here. The first installment is about to go into development proper, Games Workshop said, with a script yet to be written. But don't hold your breath.
Yeah, I mean, they have to figure out what they're going to do. Like I said about transmedia earlier, like you have to decide you're doing a movie, you're doing a show, you're doing a video game. It's all about building the universe.
And there's obviously so much, right? This has been going on for so long, so there's so many stories. I'm sure it's like Dungeons and Dragons. Games Workshop warned it'll be some years before the first project hits screens. Of course, as with all carefully crafted things, this all takes time. And trust us when we say, everyone involved is last focused on getting it all just right.
And that's what we want to see. We want to see people who you want to respect the source material while also understanding that things need to change when you create something that's in a new medium. What works for a comic doesn't work for a movie. What works for a movie doesn't work for a video game.
It's a huge undertaking.
It
You're
absolutely is.
Yeah, because not only do you have to continue that, but yes, you got to create something of your own. So you have to do it just right.
And you want to reach a new audience because there's no point in translating something from one medium to another if you're not trying to meet a new audience.
Right. Superman actor and Warhammer 40,000 superfan.
Woo! Super fan.
Superman.
He's a Superman super fan.
That threw me off. Henry Cavill is set to star in and executive produce the Warhammer 40,000 franchise across all Amazon Studios productions.
Everything. We're taking over this BITC.
Celebrating the news, Cavill issued a statement on Instagram. Here it is.
We're ready for that statement. Strap in for a statement, mother trucker.
My incredible team and I, alongside the brilliant minds at Games Workshop, have been working away in concept rooms, breaking down approaches to the enormity and the magnificence of the Warhammer world. Together, we've been sifting through the plethora of incredible characters and poring over old tombs and texts. Our combined efforts have led us to a fantastic place to start in our universe, which has been agreed upon by those up on high at both Amazon and Games Workshop.
It's nice to hear everyone's on board. Yeah, you spend a year working out a deal. That's fantastic.
That starting place shall for now remain a secret. Watch this space, though. More to come in time, Cavill said.
That is right. And you could always count on Henry Cavill, like on his social media. If you're interested, follow him. He's going to give you the updates. He is not afraid to do so.
Oh, no. He's definitely allowed. He's awesome.
I want to play Warhammer.
Maybe we could look into that, Joe. I was about to start D&D for my kids, so maybe we could look into that, dude.
I mean, it's just the problem is it's quite a commitment. It is quite a hobby. I have mad respect for anyone who could just all right, man. There are people who you go down to their basement or their man cave, and they have tables of mountain ranges and fields and taverns.
I've seen it.
Exactly.
Yeah, dude, they had full on mountain ranges and stuff like that they would oh, here we go, and they put it on the table and they'd bust out their rulers,
It's
be like, my
crazy.
attack goes for 12 feet. I'm like, what the fuck?
It's like you are prepared. Dude, the craziest thing I ever seen was it wasn't Warhammer, it was D&D, but they had a table and it was a regular table, but they flipped it obviously and it was a screen. It was a TV or
Yes.
something, and it was a
My friends had
changeable-
that too.
It was a changeable, like,
Yes.
yeah, like the squares, and just like,
Yep.
here's our field of battle, bros. Let's
No
do
joke.
this.
That was the last time I got to play
That's
D&D. They
fantastic.
had that screen
Who
table
had
too. It was an old buddy of mine. He sang for many bands, from Blue to Gray.
Sure, but he
Uh,
had a full out like D&D like setup.
Oh yeah, dude. They were all about it. They were all really
see,
good
the
dudes.
difference between Warhammer and D&D is Warhammer is a lot of D&D is a lot of imagination. Where Warhammer, they really get into the models
Yeah,
of the ships, the creatures.
they
the
really
things.
do, and all like they build like the full structures and shit. So it says here that Warhammer 40,000 is a Games Workshop science fiction universe used as the setting for its hugely popular tabletop war game starring the
The
iconic
iconic
Space Marines.
Space Marine.
It's a grim
Who's
dark
got
universe.
the biggest dick in space?
The grim dark the grim dicks.
Was that
So
too
the
much?
grim dick universe in which humanity clings on to
Punch you in the
survival.
face because I'm strong.
Glim dicks clings on to survival in the face of terrifying threats within and without the fascist imperium.
Afro male. Punch you in the face. But that being said, Warhammer's pretty fucking cool. So I'm not gonna disparage. I enjoy it. I just don't have the patience. Because I want to, Ryan. If you would commit to like a game, whether it's Dungeons and Dragons or Warhammer or anything, I would play. I would buy the models. I would do it. But the problem is, I don't think we have enough people to really get a full campaign going for anything like that.
I'm an ADHD project person where like I think of something and I get really excited and then I buy a bunch being like my Mandalorian outfit. I literally have a full chest piece, back piece, jetpack. I've got all the pieces I need.
Finish it,
I need to sand it and I need to paint it.
dude.
and
Finish it. Bring it over. We can make this project. I'm always dragging you to Comic-Con. So
Dude,
let's do this.
That would be cool, right? And I've even got like the microphone with the speaker. So
Oh.
and it's perfect. It sounds just like Star Wars universe voice.
You
know,
should do
it's
it.
so good.
Yeah. No.
I've shown you, dude. That shit's sweet.
I'm down as long as you don't mind the fact that I'm just going to be in a Dharma Initiative jumpsuit because I will defend the show Lost for the rest of my life.
Well, I think you did that last summer.
I did.
And
a
I
long,
know.
a long time ago. You know what else? Do you remember what happened last summer?
I know what you did last summer.
What?
Reboot.
Oh, is
Just-
that headline number 4?
It just got a scary good update, Joe.
Repeat that, mother trucker.
The I Know What You Did Last Summer reboot just got a scary good update.
That's what we call a transition, bitch.
This comes to us from Variety.com. Viewers are one step closer to coming face to face with the next installment of the I Know What You Did Last Summer franchise.
What?
A new photo from the set of the highly anticipated Legacy sequel has been released by Sony Pictures. The movie is currently scheduled to hit theaters in July 18th of 2025, but the studio is already taking some time to market the project. The new image from the next I Know What You Did Last Summer film only shows an unknown figure holding a dangerous weapon. The old ice pick.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty fucking dangerous. I don't want to be on a hook.
Yeah,
Like,
no
if I
thank you.
die in any scenario that isn't natural, I pretty much hope it isn't hanging from a hook.
Yeah.
I think it's fair.
So the stage has been set for yet another stalker to terrorize the new faces of the series. The next installment of the I Know What You Did Last Summer story will feature the return of Freddie Prinze Jr.
Finally,
in the role of Ray Bronson, and we all, of course, know him as Kanan Jarrus.
Kanan Jarrus. Listen, Freddie Prinze Jr., no matter if you are in love or not with his 90s boy persona of I am the leading man, sexy dude, he was a fucking
Sexy
Jedi.
dude.
He was
He is a sexy dude.
goddamn Jedi.
He is a goddamn sexy dude.
That
Jedi.
motherfucker. I don't know if he can dance, but I feel like he can. I'm just saying.
Hey, you know what?
Freddie Pinch, goddamn Juniors.
God damn it.
He
So,
was a Jedi. He was in the, what was it? Was the last Star Wars movie? It was something Skywalker, the Legacy of Skywalker, the Birth of Skywalker. What was it?
The Rise.
The Rise of Skywalker. He was even cameoed in that movie.
He was. You could
'Cause-
hear his disembodied voice when Rey was empowering all of the Jedi.
Kanan Jarrus is canon awesome.
And his photo is on the Ghost's dashboard. If you look in Ahsoka Tano series, in the Ahsoka series.
The Ahsoka series,
Yep.
yeah.
If you look at, you can see a photo, and it literally is Freddie Prinze Jr.
Freddie Prinze.
So this character
I don't know where. Continue.
that was previously seen in the first two installments of the franchise more than 2 decades ago, it's finally time for one of the stars who built the legacy of the series to return to the franchise. While the next installment of I Know What You Did Last Summer was stuck in development hell, the actor found himself involved in a galaxy far, far away as the voice of Kanan Jarrus in Star Wars Rebels, which we just said.
Damn right.
Goddamn right. So, the next story set in the universe of I Know What You Did Last Summer will be directed by Jennifer Caitlin Robinson. The filmmaker wrote the screenplay for the sequel alongside Sam Lansky and Leah McKendrick. Before finding herself involved with the next chapter of the acclaimed horror franchise, Robinson was one of the writers who brought Thor, Love and Thunder to life. Which I liked.
I liked it. Yeah, I was
I
gonna
like
say.
that.
Listen, a lot of people thought that they basically went too far into the goofy. Like Taika Waititi did a great job with Thor Ragnarok, but like they gave him too much power and he crossed the line with Thor Love and Thunder. You know what I enjoyed about it is they brought back Jane Foster because I just thought it was lame that in the Avengers movies and in the sequels of Thor they were just like, oh, they broke up. Like, look, dude, I'm fine with them breaking up. But do it on camera or kill the character or something. The point is, Taika Waititi, pretty dope.
And we're all getting up there in age, so I don't know. I found the whole thing of him becoming a dad at the end was fucking sweet.
That was beautiful, damn it.
So the Marvel Cinematic Universe sequel allowed the director to aim for the next chapter of her career, which is why Sony Pictures hired her to tackle the future of I Know What You Did Last Summer.
I Know What You Did Last movie. You're killing it. You
So-
know, they did a third I Know What You Did Last Summer.
I do.
called I
Yes,
Always Know
I
What
knew
You
that.
Did-
Yeah.
Well, you want to know something?
Because the second was I Still Know.
Yeah, you want to know something that goes full circle? Like, I'm not even making this up. Like, you could Google this shit right now. The chick from who's the lead in I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer, which was the early 2000s third threequel
Yeah.
of the. She was Rachel in the fucking Nickelodeon show Animorphs. I'm not fucking with you, man.
He's bringing us back to
I'm
Animorphs, everybody.
serious. I'm
Guys.
look. This whole show.
You're
It's-
here with me on
It's
this.
all about animal. Google that. IMDb that shit. That was not me. That is what we call divine intervention. Of like, listen,
I feel like
Earthling,
Joe is going to turn into an animal at
Listen.
any point.
listen, Earthling Entertainment, full circle, motherfucker. Continue, Ryan.
God damn it, dude. So, the I Know What You Did Last Summer franchise.
God
I
damn
feel
it.
like I've said that like 50 times.
I can turn into a snake, motherfucker.
Has done
Ryan's
a
bitch.
wonderful job of introducing characters such as Julie James. Sorry, I'm done. Jennifer Love Hewitt and Helen Shivers, Sarah Michelle Gellar. But as the franchise moves forward, new faces will steal the spotlight on the big screen.
Like a bunch of dicks.
Madeline Klein and Sarah Pigeon have been, sorry, I don't mean to say pigeon, but that's how I had to say it, have been cast in the next I Know What You Did Last Summer for the 51st time movie. They will be joined by Jonah Howard King and Chase Sweet Wonders in the sequel that will surely keep audiences on the edge of their seats. You can check out the new image of the upcoming installment of I Know What You Did Last Summer if you look it up.
Keep talking.
Oh, he's showing me some shit. What we got here? The sequel will premiere in theaters on July 18th, 2025. So that's just next year.
Yeah.
That's coming up.
I was trying to show him, but I was proving myself right that this chick was in Animorphs. Continue.
She was.
You know
That
what?
chick was in Animorphs.
That chick was in Animorphs. And you know what? Was that too much? All
No,
right.
that was great.
As far as people who have been in things who will be in things again, that brings us to headline number 5.
Chopper 5.
Chopper 5, where Chris Evans is once again re-dipping in the pool. Do you think it's because he was given more money than you could imagine, or he doesn't think he can survive without it? Here we go. Chris Evans returns to the MCU with
Chris Evans, circling appearance in Avengers Doomsday. This comes to us from Variety.com.
coward move, or they gave him a bunch of money. You be the judge.
It's looking like Chris Evans will return in Avengers Doomsday. The actor best known to Marvel fans for playing Steve Rogers, a.k.a. Captain America, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is circling another MCU appearance in 2026's comic book epic.
We're ready for Avengers Doomsday.
However, it's not clear who he'll be playing because, spoiler alert, at the end of 2019's Avengers Endgame, Cap had aged into an old man and passed the character's patriotic shield to Anthony Mackie's Sam Wilson. And this summer, Evans showed up.
Hold on.
Yeah.
That was a very big deal at the end of Endgame when he passed the shield along. A lot of people aren't a fan, but the next Captain America, which they're about to say, is starring Sam Wilson as Captain America. I will say it was in the comics, and I'm a fan of Sam Wilson, and I'm interested in this. Are you interested?
I really want to see Red Hulk.
Brave New World. Red Hulk.
That's what I'm excited for that, because I know that's bringing Red Hulk.
Yeah. Harrison Ford is playing Thunderbolt Ross now.
Yeah, and I'll admit, like, when it came to him being the new Captain America, like him with
Anthony
that,
Mackie?
with the Hawk series and stuff like that, I missed out on that. I never got to watch it. But I don't feel like I'm alone. I feel like a lot of people did kind of dodge that, but in the same way that I love Book of Boba Fett, that a lot of people dodged that,
At that time, there was a different CEO of Disney, and it was Chapek. It was I believe. And long story short, they were given an agenda. They were said, make as much Marvel stuff as you can, period, and like as quick as you can. And unfortunately, a lot of those shows were rushed, and this feels like the same situation. You know what I mean?
Well, right.
It was during that era, is all I was trying to say.
Right. So he passed on the shield to Sam Wilson. And this summer, Evans showed up in a brief scene-stealing role, which I loved. And he loved it too. He loved it too. He loved the post-credit scene.
Yeah.
He said was his favorite thing to do. Like, literally, he remembers Ryan Reynolds being like, you don't have to, but this is what I wrote. He's like, are you kidding? I will have this memorized.
I am down as Chris Evans. I want to be so ridiculous in your Deadpool
because he never gets
movie.
to. Because he was always, Mr. America, So like, it was his one opportunity.
Chris Evans embraced the idea of having that big, long, horrible thing to say. Because you have to feel shackled being a Disney person, right?
And he gave full reign. And like I said, it's scene-stealing role in the billion-dollar smash Deadpool and Wolverine as Johnny Storm, a.k.a. the Human Torch.
Fantastic.
His character from Fox's 2005 to 2007 Fantastic Four movies.
Yeah, which pretty much brings the 2005-2007 Fantastic Four 1 and 2 into Marvel canon as far as the whole
sort of, right?
Well,
because
kind of,
it was
because the
multiple realities.
Exactly. And let's be honest, Avengers Doomsday is going to be followed up by Avengers Secret Wars. Both of them is going to conclude which I'm sure they'll say in this article, the multiverse saga, which they're bringing in what they've done with Blade and Wesley Snipes, that it's all part of the one big multiverse of Marvel.
So what do you think it's going to be about? Because it says here plot details for Doomsday have been kept under wraps.
I mean, I think it'll be Battle World. I think it'll be straight out of the comics, but just like Marvel's Civil War, it'll be a little bit different. They'll adjust it to fit the universe they've created.
But remember, Robert Downey Jr. is back too, not in his career-defining role as Iron Man, but as Dr. Victor Von Doom.
Victor Von Doom. Yeah,
the main villain for the Fantastic Four.
What a fucking sexy villain.
Joe and Anthony Russo are directing.
Russo, excuse me.
Thank you, Russo. Doomsday and the 2027's Avengers Secret Wars, which will conclude the multiverse saga of the MCU.
So like I was saying, they're going to have Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars, and that is going to be basically Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. That is a two-parter to end the multiverse saga. And I'm excited. I'm very excited. And I guess I don't really have more to say about that besides nonsense will ensue, because they've essentially said with the Spider-Man movie that just came out, No Way Home, and
still haven't seen it.
And what they're doing, I mean, the Marvels with Brie Larson, the one, it didn't go over well, but it ended with an after-credits scene that had Kelsey Grammer playing Beast. So what they're basically saying is like every Marvel property that was a movie could potentially play into Secret Wars, because Secret Wars is about all the universes coming together and Doctor Doom essentially making them fight.
I think Deadpool said it best in Deadpool and Wolverine, where he was like, "Suck it, Fox. I'm going to Disneyland."
They're doing everything, man.
So they've alluded that the movies will be connected. The two-part story from 2018's Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. So they are going to include it all.
It's all going to be connected, man.
Those back-to-back blockbusters spotlighted a who's who of Avengers, including but not limited to Evans as Captain America, Downey as Iron Man, Tom Holland as Spider-Man, Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow, Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk, Brie Larson as Captain Marvel, Chris Hemsworth as Thor. Jeremy Renner. See how much better when I know the names?
It does.
Jeremy Renner.
All it takes
Hawkeye.
is a giant franchise.
It just takes me to actually care. I'm terrible, but it's hard with names for me. But Paul Rudd as Ant-Man. So it's safe to assume a whole plethora of A-list superheroes will soon be joining Downey and Evans in these forthcoming features.
Are you prepared, mother trucker?
And given the multiverse-driven story, they may all be appearing as multiple versions of their characters, or as different characters entirely, who knows, and I'll add personally, time travel. So obviously with time travel, no matter what, they can just go back and talk to Captain America back in time.
Exactly. You bet your ass that fucking Scarlett Johansson's going to show up.
That's all they got to do. Go back in time and be like, and they could have a big emotional scene where it's like, you're going to die. And she's like, I know. Like, that seems like her. And then it says here, Avengers Doomsday is scheduled to premiere on May 1st, 2026, with Secret Wars expected to land only a year later on May 7th, 2027.
That's right. Are you excited?
Dude, I'm really excited.
I am too.
Honestly, because I honestly love all the classic MCU stuff that they put out there. I know they kind of went a little crazy with stuff. It was series. They were just obsessed with series. We're in a weird time of streaming.
If you know the situation with the CEO of the company, it would all make sense. Like Bob Chapek and Bob Iger, and how it went to basically Bob Chapek took over. Bob Chapek told all the creatives to make as much as you can, as fast as you can, fuck quality. And then Bob Iger comes back and he's like, okay, let's give the power back to the creatives and let's see what happens. So it's a lot of balancing. It's kind of like the stock market where you're like, how does this affect this? Well, if you look at it and you figure out like where the quality dipped versus when it was like creative driven, you can see that it had a lot to do with the people in charge.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that's what I always say when it comes to these series is it's just so unfortunate that no one can just let a writer write. Like and it's because like I love your writing and
Thank you.
you know, and
I
there
will
are great
I
writers
will
out there.
take that compliment. Then.
And it's like people pay for it and then they change it. And then there's like a studio being like, no, we need to change this.
Well,
We
you
need
can't play.
make
I mean,
this person more
honestly,
like this. And it's like,
ah.
why? And it's like, it doesn't make sense.
It's tough because, like, as an artist, I want to say you always go with the creative and you always want to make it make sense. But at the same time, the people who put up the money should expect to get their money back. And it's a balance of like, this is selling, this isn't selling. It's a real interesting position, which is why I think it's fascinating to where James Gunn is right now in the position of like creating the DCEU is he is a creative and he's going to make decisions based on what he feels as though is the best story and the best fucking action, but he also is the head of a studio, so he has to make those decisions based on what he thinks would sell.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
And
it's
it's
a
the
weird
same
thing.
and it is a weird thing. And you gotta imagine, and it's like that's why one thing that I don't like about a lot of the hate that a lot of new series get is sometimes other people get a chance too. And you know what? It might be their first time like really getting this chance. So maybe they didn't hit the mark on every single point. God forbid. You know what I mean?
Forbid.
Like,
Yeah, let's
God
bury
forbid.
them early.
Right. So because we saw that with Star Wars. Like that's the best recent thing I can reference.
Oh man, you know what's good about Star Wars though is do you see that new show?
Yes, I
Skeleton
was hoping
Crew?
you'd bring that up.
Dude, Skeleton Crew, what I
Very
like-
good.
Okay, so everything else aside, I think every fan could agree that Skeleton Crew it's bringing us back to the joy of Star Wars.
Yes.
You know, it is a Goonies style, like here we are and we're on an adventure. And you know what? I don't know if you've gone online, but most people aren't talking shit, which is
Right
pretty-
now, it's
yeah.
sitting 1% higher than I last checked. It's at 96% on Rotten Tomatoes. So most users are thinking it's great, which they're not wrong. I watched it. It was so good.
It's so good.
It's really not. It's good. It's what I've always said. Put a good story into Star Wars.
That's
Everything
all
is
you
there.
need.
Everything is there. Like you just have to make a
It's
good
a
story.
whole universe.
So it's not just fan treatment.
It's Goonies. It feels like
It's
a
a-
Spielberg old show.
It's
You
written
know?
well. I love the characters, and it's adorable. Star Wars has to give you one adorable character. What's his name? I forget the kid's name.
The
The elephant
I think
dude.
Neil.
Yeah, Neil. Thank you, Neil. The
Yeah.
shit.
Well, you know what? Neil is a good character. You know, if you're a fan of Star Wars, you wanna
Robert
wa-
Timothy Smith plays
that-
Neil,
that kid is awesome.
and then forgive me if I get his name wrong. Ravi Cabot Coigners is Wim, who's like the main character.
Yeah.
And then we've got Nick Frost playing Aunt
robot.
Cinder, the robot. Yep. He's-
Basically, I mean, if you're a fan of Goonies, watch it.
and then we've got Steve Urkel, who is, obviously that's not his name. Jaleel White plays Gunter.
He
In
is
that.
so good in that. I swear to
And
God.
dude, real good.
he
it,
is.
It reminds me kind of the stuff that a lot of people didn't like about Book of Boba Fett that I loved. That whole like crew of people that were like
half robot.
It was like a
they were
tattoo shop.
Yeah, they were augmented with like features of robot
droids,
stuff. Yeah,
droids,
yeah.
And they were like droid augment. He's like, you're not going to close her up. He's like, and cover up all that beautiful machinery.
Absolutely.
Like, dude, it kind of reminded me of that because he had like his whole scouter, like that he had on like the whole time, his little visor on. Just
Well,
classic Star Wars.
Well, the classic Star Wars, they released the first 2 episodes, and if you're a fan, let me ask you: they introduced Jude Law's character at the very end.
Yeah.
Do you think he's a Jedi? Do you think that he used the Force?
As of right now, he is listed as Jad Nawad.
Sure, but do you think he's a Jedi, or do you think he's because we
That
know
sounds pretty Jedi.
he could very well.
That sounds pretty goddamn.
I don't know.
Jed,
I have a
Jad
feeling
Nod.
I
Now
have a
would-
feeling I have a feeling he's a scoundrel, and that key he moved with his mind with the Force was a trick. That's what I think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
No, either
But
way,
hey,
it's...
guys, if you're a fan of Star Wars, watch Skeleton Crew.
Oh, fuck yeah, you should. It's really good. And honestly, watch The Acolyte. At least make your way. Like episode 5 is the shit.
Come on, guys, give new Star Wars a chance. Listen, instead of bitching, why don't you be happy there's new Star Wars?
I will just swing my Kratosis metal at you and deflect.
You don't have to love every aspect of a show to like what they're doing, man. Let some shit go.
That's what we're saying here. Go into everything with an open mind. In an internet age, before we see anything, what do?
What do
We
do?
Google
What do we
it.
do?
We check the Rotten Tomatoes. We check all. Stop. We need to all collectively stop.
Dude,
And
it's not that hard to like watch something and give your own perspective. How do you feel?
And that kind of brings us, I think, to the end of our episode.
That's right, guys. And you know what? Thank you so much for listening. And
Fuck yeah!
Yeah, if you want a bumper sticker, hit us up at
Earthling Entertainment Podcast at gmail.com.
That's right. We'll
please
send it
us,
to you.
Send us your stories if you've experienced something or if you've heard of one that we haven't mentioned that you would really like. We will do the diving for you. Please send us the story.
Yeah, what do you think? And if you guys, we have a mission for you. I got to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to share this podcast with a coworker,
With a friend,
with a loved one,
with an enemy.
with a fellow Earthling.
The point is, spread the word and become a Earthling and grow the Earthling community, mother
And we
trucker.
got stickers we want to send you. We got so many. We're going to get more, maybe even lighters. We haven't talked about it yet.
And
but we wanna-
download
we
the
wanna make
episodes.
stuff and-
Download the goddamn episodes.
That's right. And remember, please also email us what kind of merch you want. Do you love us? Do you want to rep us? Do you want
I
a
love
hat?
us.
Do you
I
want
gotta be honest. I'm
I'll
very
make a hat.
obsessed with us.
Dude, so we will do that, but we need your input. Earthling Entertainment Podcast at gmail.com.
That's right. So from everyone here and the show, we say goodbye and see you next week. So long.
Who am I? I am Earthling Entertainment. Who am I?
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
I'm pretty salsa with it.
At the end of the day, it's just Earthling Entertainment.
Yeah, we're done.